Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Game changer, game changer, game changer, game changer. The Game Changer Radio Network.
Turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
All right, here we go. Man, I love my job. What is up, everybody? This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. That's right. Today is Tuesday, June 9th. 161 days into the new year, if you're following that Gregorian thing. 204 days left. I saw somebody tweet today. I wonder if Jimmy knows it's 199 days to Christmas. Of course I know that. We are live from the City of Angels Studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. Yes, it is raining outside. City of Angels, COA Vapor, makers of the Fade to Black e-juice. It's called Fader Loops. It's good, too. Just go to the COA banner at jimmychurchradio.com. You can use the promo code Jimmy. Get the Fader Not Special, which means free shipping in the continental United States. It's because it's got nicotine. It's a chemical. It ain't going anywhere across the borders. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world, fighting the good fight for us. For without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you could not hear me right now. Any doubts? North Korea, go. Don't let the door hit you in the ass when you're leaving. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, we have, been trying for this for a long, long time, too. Robert Perala is with us. Robert Perala. All-around good guy, visionary, contactee, author, show host, musician. Robert Perala will be with us. Fired up about this. You have no idea. Last night was amazing. It was. I was just looking at Twitter. Steve said, well, after last night, Jimmy, you're not going to top anything, but what the heck? Swing for the fences. And he's right. Robert Perala is with us. Tomorrow night is the Hangar One special with cast and crew. It'll be one of three. Tomorrow night, we're going to have John Ventry with us, Jeremy Ray, Clifford Clift, and Lee Spiegel, all in one show, one place, one time, right here, Fade to Black, tomorrow night. Of course, Thursday will be Fader Night, because it's Thursday. All right, fired up, man. Robert Perala, I've been wanting to. Robert is somebody that in the UFO community, the paranormal community, consciousness, and so forth, he's there, and everybody looks up to Robert. Everybody just, and he's always got that crowd around him, and he's just so well spoken, and you just hang out with him, and he's magnetic. You feel his energy just coming off him. He's just such a cool guy. I mean, real cool. And I just, we've been trying to get the seas to part. Tonight is the night. Robert is actually going to be on the show with us. And if you never heard Robert before, if you haven't been to his website, it's robertperala.com. Go check it out. Check out his show. Check out his interviews. It's really good stuff. And his books are second to none. He's just one of those cats, man. And he's going to be hanging out with us tonight. Tonight's going to be good old-fashioned radio. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking, and sharing with everyone. It's going to be great. So I hope you enjoy yourself. Tonight is one of those nights. You just just get comfortable, get your Gobekli Tepe ready, whatever you're going to smoke, all of that stuff. Get under your blankie and get ready. Get fired up because it's going to be one of those shows tonight. And with that, let's get this show cracking. Why? Because today, Johnny Depp is 52 years old. Johnny Depp. There's a Twitter question right there. It's probably already being answered. Johnny Depp, 52 years old. Also today, Natalie Portman is just 34. What an amazing career, huh? By the age of 34, Natalie Portman, one of our favorites around here. Well, so's Depp. Also today, Michael J. Fox is 54. Jackie Mason today is 84. Now, Jackie Mason, before you ask all you youngsters out there, Jackie Mason, who's Jackie Mason? I can dig the Johnny Depp thing. I understand Natalie Portman. Michael J. Fox, yeah, I get it. Who is Jackie Mason? Jackie Mason had one of the best parts in all of cinema in The Jerk as the gas station owner. And he will always make the list because of that moment in time in The Jerk. Jackie Mason, happy birthday, 84 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today, yes, a moment of silence. Doug Aldrich just tweeted this out a few minutes ago. Les Paul, he would have been 100 years old today. Born in 1915, died in 2009 at the age of 94. Of course, we know him because of the Les Paul guitar. But that's not all. I mean, that guy affected everything in music. He was a jazz and blues guitarist, blazing guitar player, but he pioneered the solid body electric guitar. It was him. And you should see his original designs, by the way. It was just a piece of wood. Well, anyway, that should be a whole nother show. But he influenced what would become rock and roll. Imagine Jimmy Page without a Les Paul. And then the story stops there, right? Pump the brakes right there. He had a number one hit, How High the Moon. And on August 12th, 2009, he died of complications from pneumonia at White Plains Hospital in White Plains, New York. And on August 21st, 2009, he was buried near Milwaukee in Waukesha, Wisconsin, at Prairie Home Cemetery, and he was buried next to his mother. I have a few Les Paul stories, but there's one that was really cool. I was in New York, and I was speaking, and I had spoken for like a week, and I had lost my voice. And we were at that point we were at a convention, and Les Paul, he played like every night at a club there in New York, and the two of us one-on-one we're talking. I'm like, dude, I lost my voice. I can't talk. And he looks at me and he goes, you need to take one of these, Jimmy. And he reaches into his pocket and he takes out some Ricolas. And he hands me, he said, take one of these. And I unwrap it, pop it in my mouth. And he goes, here's a couple more for later. And he gave me two. The one that he gave me, about a half hour later, I got my voice back. And then I took one more Ricola that he gave me, and I was good to go. The third Ricola that Les Paul gave me is over at Casa Day Church in a treasured drawer, and it sits there, and I will keep it forever. And from that point on, Ricola and me were friends because of Les Paul. That is a true story. What a gentleman. What a cool guy he was. And happy birthday, Les Paul. All right, moving on. Man, Les Paul, 100 years old. Made it to 94, too. He was a click away, wasn't he? Almost made it to the century mark. All right, questions for Twitter. I have two. What's the best Johnny Depp movie? What's the best? Because he's all over the mark, man. He's serious. He's funny. He's creepy. He's all that. He's wearing makeup. What's the best Johnny Depp movie? And I'm going to give you mine right now. I want to see Twitter light up. But mine, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Hands down. Hands down. And then I got to do this for Michael J. Fox. What's the best Back to the Future? Is it 1, 2, or is it 3? The best Nightmare on Elm Street, right there. Michael Anderson. That's a good call, actually. That's a good call. The best Back to the Future, 1, 2, or 3. And I gotta say, my answer was all 3. Because they're all good, and I love watching them back to back, and they happen to feed together correctly. They actually seem like one long movie, and I dig that. But the more that I thought about it, I'm kind of leaning on 3. Why? Well, first off, the ending is great with the train, but ZZ Top. There's my answer. All right, tomorrow night. Let's not forget, tomorrow night, we're going to do this Hangar 1 special. Also, on Friday is episode 10. There's only 12 episodes. That means there's only 3 episodes left to Hangar 1. That's why we're doing the Hangar 1 special tomorrow night. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Robert Perala is with us. You can follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And Nora just came in with Edward Scissors. Benny and June, there you good. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. When I come back after the break, all the news that you know nothing about.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi,
Hi, this is Chase Kletzky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Benny and June. Yeah, that was a incredibly heartbreaking movie. Incredible movie. But what about Ed Wood? Ed Wood. Yeah. Plan 9 from outer space. All right, let's go. This is Fade to Black. Man, I'm on my toes today. Man. You know what I'm holding in my hand right now? I'm holding a Power Vite actually in my hand. I'm looking at it. I'm holding a Power Vite right now. It's not coated. Nothing hiding this thing. I dig that. You can smell it. And you could just see those nutrients. I love Power Vites. Power Vite, I'm serious. Complete multivitamin mineral formula. I should take one. Should I take one live on the air right now? Boom. Look. Check it out. Take one. All right. I just took a Power Vite live on the air. Man, I've lost my mind. They have the same, I found this out today. They have the same good bacteria found in better yogurts. It helps your body absorb the nutrients. I was wondering why these kick in and I feel so good and I pee so yellow so quickly. I guess that's it. The Green Turtle Bay Vitamin Company are dedicated nutritionists. They have been producing Power Vites for over 20 years right here in America. They produce high-quality nutritional, dietary, and health supplements in small, fresh, potent batches, and they ship direct to you. To order, go to their website right now, energywave.com. Simple, energywave.com. Use the promo code KGRA, get free shipping on your order. You can also call 1-800-TURTLE-5. That's 1-800-TURTLE-5. Live operators are standing by. Use that promo code KGRA, free shipping on your order right now. 1-800-887-8535. If you need more energy, which I do every day, Power Vites. That's it. On this day in history, 1973. Secretariat wins the Triple Crown. We never thought that would happen again, did we? Until last weekend. 1993. Hollywood madam Heidi Fleiss is arrested. Insert joke there. Go ahead. Go ahead, Twitter world. Light it up. Heidi Fleiss. Somebody just do this for me. This is just for grins. Do this for Jimmy and Twitter. Find me a current picture of Heidi Fleiss. What does she look like today? Because that was 22 years ago, and she, you know what I'm saying. I'm just wondering. Somebody tweet out a current picture of Heidi Fleiss. Fader facts. Let's go. The first independent nation to grant women the right to vote was Sweden, 1711. That's a Fader fact. The shortest war on record was fought between Zanzibar and England in 1896. Zanzibar surrendered after 38 minutes. A dog's sense of smell is 1,000 times stronger than humans. We all knew it was good, but that's friggin' great. The moon, this is a Fader fact. This right here, this is what you just if you need to rewind and hear this again, go ahead and do it. The moon smells and tastes like burnt gunpowder. No one is quite sure why. That's right. No one has received more U.S. patents than Thomas Edison with 1,093. And I got some more for you. I got to keep going. The brain of a roach is located inside its body. If it loses its head, it can live up to 9 days. That's a fader fact. All right, I got one more for you. This one comes in from Renee. I got to give Renee credit for this one. Eating at KFC is a Christmas tradition in Japan. Here's some explanation for you. Even though a very small percentage of Japan is Christian, they've adopted Christmas as basically the holiday when you eat at KFC. So on Christmas Day, December 25th, Japan goes to KFC. And KFC and Christmas are synonymous. That is a fader fact. Man, I love doing this show. Spreading the news. Heidi Fleiss in January. Oh, good Lord. Really? I'll tweet that out. That's a retweet. That is from Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. Oh, wait a minute. We got more. We got a better one here. Tammy got a good one in. That gets a retweet. Hold on. Let's make, Gabriel. Gabriel, you are not right. Where did you? Heidi Fleiss is trending on Twitter right now. I'm trending. All right. All the news you know nothing about. Let's do this. This is speed news. Several foot-long lampreys have apparently fallen out of the sky near Fairbanks, Alaska. They've been found in a shopping center parking lot and on lawns, and residents are unnerved by the creepy, toothed, eel-like fish. They are nasty. According to a story in the Alaska News Miner, adult Arctic lampreys have fallen from the sky 4 times this week in Fairbanks, including at the Value Village parking lot, and this is according to the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. Oh, man. They're just nasty, too. The Obama administration has levied fines totaling nearly $1 million against 2 of the nation's nuclear weapons laboratories in New Mexico. Both basically Los Alamos, by the way, before you think there was 2 separate. Mostly for failing to keep track of classified materials and for repeatedly disclosing information related to nuclear weapons design in public presentations stretching over nearly a decade. In notices published last week by the Energy Department, the National Nuclear Security Administration provided only general information about the materials and data that got loose. But it did say that breaches were among the most serious such infractions, and they could have an adverse impact on national security. That's Sandia National Laboratories in Albuquerque will be fined $577,500 for its poor handling of classified nuclear bomb design information. And the second, Los Alamos, a second private company, they face a fine of $247,500. Colorado is full of all-inclusive ranch resorts where guests can hike and fish and play horseshoes and roast marshmallows. But now you can smoke pot. That's right. At 170-acre at the Canna Camp, opening July 1st in Durango in southwest Colorado, calls itself the nation's first cannabis-friendly ranch resort. Isn't that nice? Guests won't be given marijuana, though, because that violates state law. Instead, the resort allows guests to bring their own pot and use it while at the resort. Now, in addition to horseshoes and hiking, guests are offered yoga sessions and workshops on marijuana cultivation and bong cleaning. An Italian restaurant broke out of an out-of-this-world record for the most time. Did I say restaurant? Astronaut. Astronaut, because I only equate Italian and restaurant together. My eyes did not see astronaut. It saw restaurant. An Italian astronaut broke out of this world record for the most time a woman has spent in space during a single mission, according to the ESA, the European Space Agency. ESA astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti set the record on June 6th at 11:04 a.m. beating the previous record set by Sunita Williams on board the International Space Station in June 2007. Now, Cristoforetti's trip isn't over. She's staying up there. And if she lands as scheduled on June 11th, she will have been in space for 199 days, 16 hours, and 42 minutes. A series of security threats closed portions of the White House and Capitol Hill today. I was watching it live on television. It was kind of weird to see a press conference get called off and dogs running around and nobody knows really what was going on. But apparently the Secret Service said there was a bomb threat. That's right. It was called into the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, targeting the briefing room specifically. The evacuation at the White House came just hours after the U.S. Capitol Police received a bomb threat that forced evacuation of the hearing of the TSA. A 5,200, what is wrong with my eyeballs? A 2,500-year-old predecessor of the D.C. Comics Wonder Woman superheroine has emerged on a vase. Now, I've got pictures of this. We'll get them up on Twitter. It's a little vase, and on the top of it, on the rim, is a painting of a woman who is riding a horse with a lasso. And in the painting, she's kicking the crap out of a Greek warrior. It's no joke. It's the first Wonder Woman ever. And if you look at this is 2,500 years old. And if you look at this, it looks like Wonder Woman on a horse twirling the Wonder Woman lasso. It's absolutely incredible to see that. Wasn't Wonder Woman Amazon? I believe Wonder Woman was Amazon. Oh, man, what is this? What is this? Mark, I can't retweet that. It looks like, is that what's his name? That looks like somebody I don't want to know. Mark. That just burned my eyeballs. All right, that's where we're at. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can shoot me an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Tonight, Robert Perala is with us. He is in the batter's box, by the way. He's ready to go. It's all good. Mark Dunbar, you burned off my cornea. I can't see. There it is. Thank you, Dark Star. Got retweeted. There's Wonder Woman. This is Fade to Black. Stay right there.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Today, everybody, the Fadernauts and planet Earth is vaping. And I'm very proud to announce our very own e-juice. When we were approached by City of Angels Vapor about Fade to Black e-juice, I wanted to make sure that it was the very best and that the flavors were something that I could create myself. And we did just that. Introducing Fade to Black Fader Loops. This will take you right back to Saturday morning cartoons and your favorite bowl of Fruity Loopy cereal. Just click on the banner or go to www.coavapor.com. Enter the promo code Jimmy for the Fadernaut special. That's www.coavapor.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes. You want
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Attention, all Fade or Not. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy. All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Robert Perala is with us. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to warm up in this way. And I know I said this at the in the intro of the show, but Robert is one of those guys. He's magnetic. He draws a crowd. People want to hear what he has to say, and he's got a million friends and all of that. But I'm going to tell you, he's a man of the world, and I just love hanging out with this guy. And tonight, it was a long road coming. Trying to get him on this show was tough. Getting him on the phone is like getting my mechanic on the phone. My mechanic would be easier than Robert Perala. He is always writing, and he's got his own show that he hosts up in Northern California. And reaches over across the pond, too. Robert Perala is an internationally acclaimed author of The Divine Blueprint, a roadmap for the new millennium. And the new revised edition is The Divine Architect, the Art of Living and Beyond. And also, he had his very own, very close encounter of the 10th kind on December 27th in 1977. We'll be talking about that. And in 2007, he received the prestigious Certificate of Congressional Recognition at Stanford University for his humanitarian relief efforts with UNICEF and Adopt a Minefield. He is considered by many to be one of North America's premier inspirational speakers and is a U.S. correspondent for his own internet TV show, The Perala Report. You can see all of everything at robertperala.com. He has been featured on CNN, the Fox News Network, Showtime, and Coast to Coast AM. And now, as of tonight, he's been a guest on Fade to Black. And I would like to welcome to the program my good friend, Robert Perala. Robert, how are you tonight, sir?
Doing great, Jimmy. That's a lot. It puts a big smile on my face when I hear you're on the radio enlightening people, taking them to a place of love, hope, and wonder. Wow.
No, that's your job. I just share the information. So good to have you on, Robert. And first off, how are you? Is it all good?
Well, yeah, things are pretty good. I think we're all recovering from Contact in the Desert. Big event out there in the desert. It's not an easy gig to play, you know. I do music gigs and I do the lecture gigs. And, boy, you get out there in the desert and holy cow. Great to see all the luminaries that are so famous and everything and the people. But it was hot.
Yeah, it was hot. But, you know, what was cool for me, I have a couple of memories that I'll always walk away with. One, the Fade or Nots and the people and the attendees there. That's the first memory. The second one was you and Paul and I. We had a chance to hang out for a couple hours. We broke bread. And it was interesting for me to just kind of kick back and just watch how people come up to you left and right. And the friends that you have, and it's just really cool. And you've got that thing about you, man. You're a magnet, and you're a magnet of enlightenment. And it's just enough of that. Okay, let's move on. But that's what I came away from Contact, was just watching you from afar. And it was pretty cool. Pretty cool, young man. You've got it going on.
That's so kind of you. You know, we're here to move, touch, and inspire people, really. And if you just focus each and every day, I tell my friends and family and people that just come through my life, you know, create a moment for them. You know, everybody's getting bad news every day. Everybody's getting something that's challenging them emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever, relationship-wise. And just take the time to be really present with them, and remember that they're very special, and they'll walk away and they'll go, you know what? I feel a little better after that because the world's gone mad.
Well, and for you, you are able to do at this point in your life, and I love saying this to a guest, you found your bliss. You're able to write music, perform, write books, speak, and inspire, and inform through your own website, your own TV show, and you're able to speak about it, and that's what I get from you. You found your bliss, and people can see that and get that from you. Have you found your bliss?
Well, I find little bits of it, but like everyone else, of course, I always fall back into the stinking thinking, and why is it like this, and what do we do to change it, and who are these people that got into my reality? How did you get into this? How did you get into my house? But at the same time, then I go back to, I have a lovely wife. I have some bliss. I try to focus on the positive. I get up in the morning and I actually have a talk with my ego, believe it or not. And I say, look, let's not take people's inventory all day, shall we? Let's try to be a vessel for the divine. Let's not take other people's inventory and find out what's wrong with them. Let's just try to walk the path and do some good. It's not that hard and everything, and it just takes a little practice, and on, and you're doing the same thing, with your radio show, you're offering the opportunity, a platform for spiritual growth, metaphysical understanding, science, exploration. Wow,
Yeah, the world is a question, isn't it? It's just so funny. You can walk down a path, choose your path any day, and have questions in front of you, and that's the way that that's the way that I not only treat this show, but life in general. You can go anywhere in any direction when you get up in the morning and go and get some questions, and gather them and then explore. And that's what I do every single day. And with guests like you, I'm able to do that. And I am truly blessed, man. I believe me, nobody knows more than myself how great it is to be able to have guests on the show that I can just ask those important questions and share that. So I want to back up for a second for the audience that may not know Robert Perala. I want to talk about 1977, and we're going to jump into that with Feet First. But prior to your encounter in 1977, what was going on in your life, and did you ever expect anything like what happened that evening in 1977?
Well, I'm 59 now. I never expected anything like it. Didn't know anything about extraterrestrials. Really was just not aware of it, really. But since I was very, much younger than that, in those days, I was always moved by. One day, the Beatles came home from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. You remember the Maharishi?
Oh, yes.
And they came back from the Himalayas. They were in an area of the world called Rishikesh. It's where the Ganges meets the plains. It's in a remote area of India where the Maharishi was, talking to a lot of people, and he said, "You have to sit still, or you'll never know." And I wanted to know, that really hooked me. I was like, wow, what is it that he knows, And so I was learning really about meditation first. And I experimented with grass and everything like we all did, but it was suddenly, that's meditation. I wonder if I can just set my ego still and my mind still for for a little while to see, would there be anything? I was always curious, can we tap into the divine intelligence? Is there a way that we can actually access that as he says we can? And the mystics say. So I was very young when this was all happening, It was like, wow, So I switched on to spirituality because I think it was probably due to the trauma, the tear of my childhood that I wanted some other kind of connection. So yeah, I was into I was getting into mysticism a little bit, but extraterrestrials, no, that was not really the direction at the time,
What about Eric von Daniken? He took the world by storm in 69, 70, and you were certainly old enough to pick up that book. Did you read that?
I glanced at it through high school like everyone else did, and I was taken back by it. I didn't know, I didn't read the whole thing, but I thought, wow, the universe is maybe abundant. Well, how could it not be? I mean, so for some of us, it comes easy that you realize that the universe is abundant with trillions of planet infinities and everything, and you think, well, there must be life out there, and then others, it didn't and everything. And we see him last week, right? And this guy gets up there. I really love that guy. He says, I am from Interlaken. And he comes out there with this great German accent. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger on steroids.
I know.
I mean, talking UFOs and everything. And the audience is just sitting there jaw-dropping, listening to him and everything. And I'm thinking, well, I remember when he said that in his book when I was 15. They were talking about it then, and he hasn't changed directions. He said one day he came up to me at lunchtime. He says, Rob, I'm from Interlaken. I've sold 40 million copies of Chariots of the Gods. And I thought, well, and he says, and it took me 40 years to do it. And I go, yeah, I believe it. 40 years of that book being out, that's about 1 million books a year. Yeah.
You know what he said to me after the radio program that on Friday night at Contact, that the next day Rita and I, we pull up to him and Ramon, and I said, hey guys, hey, thank you for yesterday. And he leans forward, and I'm not, this is Eric, man, so cool. He goes, thank you so much, Jimmy. Ciao. Ciao. Rita goes, did he just say ciao? And I said, he said ciao.
German, very close to Italy, probably. Charming guy. Charming animated guy. They gave him the Lifetime Achievement Award, at the luncheon, and George Norrie gave it to him and everything. He's such a very charmer, when he starts to speak, everybody sort of leans forward and says, wow, this is the go-to guy. This is the guy that started it all. Before anybody was hardly talking about extraterrestrials, he floored us with this book and then came out with all these others, and now he's just this sought-after character, so... you never know.
We just got some pictures that were sent in to us from Rick, and one of them is a close-up, high-res of Eric, and Eric's looking deadpan into Rick's camera. It's an excellent photograph, but Rita looks at it, and she goes, he's got less wrinkles than you. And I looked again, and she's right. Dude has he's got some work done. He's got somebody in Hollywood, Beverly Hills.
He's 80.
He's 80 and looks amazing. I looked at and Rita's absolutely right. Dude has no wrinkles. So now I bring this up, Robert, because I wanted to kind of set the stage for 1977 because you ran you ran a clean ship when it comes to ufology, and you had no concept of anything for that evening in 1977, and which I knew about that. I just wanted you to set the stage for everybody. UFOs were not a part of your life, and then this thing happened in 1977. And I know were you with your family or your dad? Who else was with you that evening?
Really, my mom and my dad and my sister and her husband, and they slept upstairs in a room. It was a fairly big place, and I didn't, looking back on it all, what I've really learned out of it is that the realities are quite malleable, and things can go on at very close proximity when they want to take somebody for some reason, whatever reason, while the others will know nothing has happened. And we've seen this over and over. You just had Betty Andreasen on your show, and she was one of the early books that I read, The Andreasen Affair, and I started to get the idea from her and from Brad Steiger and these other old books and everything that they were talking about people that had a close encounter with something extraordinarily unusual, while the others saw really nothing. And so now, after 37 years of research and being in the field, I can understand how some of this works, that this is designed for some people and other people not. Because for some people, their reality would just melt down and it would be too much for them. And their consciousness is not really ready, and maybe in their own evolutionary cycle, they're not really set up for that. Well, there might be one in the family that says, but that one, we will deal with this one.
Well, you very nearly melted down after that experience. And I want to discuss exactly where your mind was also after the event, because your comments about that are extraordinary, and you didn't take it lightly because, well, it was a life-changing event for sure, but the way that you closed off the world too immediately after that, I do want to talk about that period. So let's what happened? So were you in I'll let you tell the story, but were you in bed? Did the rest of the family, everybody was doing their thing and you were alone?
Yeah, no, they were asleep. I was the last to go to bed. I was downstairs, the only one downstairs. And, but I was on a skiing vacation. We were in the area of Heavenly Valley, which is in it was rather in Lake Tahoe. It's where the California-Nevada border meet. And I was on a skiing vacation. And about 2:30 in the morning, I was startled awake what looked like an incredible storm in the room, just arcing flashes of lightning, blue, white, green, indigo. And a deafening sound became very, very loud. And I shot up out of bed. My God, what is happening here? And the ceiling dropped away. And down came what looked like three astronauts of some kind that wore like silver, like spacesuits. They had visors. I saw no faces. They did not speak to me. They had orange antennas on each of their helmets. The suits themselves even seemed to be alive. And as I started to scream and bolt up out of bed, I started screaming. As soon as I did, I was frozen in a blue like cocoon of light of some kind, like a billion needles holding you in place, and I couldn't move. And it was all I could hear was my screaming inside my head. And then suddenly the side of the house just dropped away, and there was a very, very bright tunnel, a lot like the movie Contact, with Jodie Foster.
Sure.
And suddenly, without warning, I just was hurled through this tunnel, which was extraordinarily painful. I'd love to tell people this was a lovely experience and I saw the light, but that's not this story. It was very painful. I screamed, and I thought, at one point I surrendered, and I thought, I'm dying, and I'm surrendering now. I'm going to die. I thought I was going to die, and I was willing to do whatever, just surrender to it, because it was terribly. It was like being on fire. Then suddenly, all of a sudden, everything went quiet. And I'm hovering naked in this blue bubble in this spherical room, some kind of spherical room of some kind, with this glass obelisk-like object. And this thing seemed to interface with me. And I was there vertical, hovering and floating in front of it. And then all of a sudden, it let me go. It just let go of me. And then suddenly I hurled back through the tunnel. And it was very painful, all the lightning, this storm of colors going by me and everything, and just an incredible speed, indescribable. I'm hovering now suddenly horizontal above my bed, and then I'm lowered slowly down onto the bed in this blue light. And then as I touched and lay down on the bed and everything, all of a sudden the storm started to subside. The side of the house sealed back up, and the astronauts that had these suits and flashes of lightning went up through the ceiling, and the ceiling closed up, and it was over. Now, most people might think, well, okay, how do you know that was real? Well, I lied there for the first 2 hours not even knowing even what happened. I was in such shock that I was just devastated. And I threw up over the side of the bed, and then I pulled myself across the floor and went to the bathroom, pulled myself carefully up over the sink, turned on the light, and I was soaked from head to toe in like a honey oil-like material, and I was sunburned from head to toe. And I thought, my God, and I was just in complete state of shock. I had no idea what this could be. So, it wasn't about extraterrestrials even for the first 3 months. After this was over, I didn't suddenly say, well, I've had a close encounter. I didn't even know what it was. I went home the very next day. I didn't say a word to anybody about what happened, except for they were always saying, what, how are you so red? And I was just in a state of shock. I literally did not tell anybody. And strangely enough, the week before, I had moved into my apartment, a little tiny place in Los Gatos, California. And it was already set up, ready for me to move in. And when I got home, I set my bags down. And that was the first day I was going to live alone. Till that point, I'd had roommates, and then my parents before that. And I was all alone, and I locked myself in my apartment for about 3 months. I went to work 2 weeks later. I did not tell anybody about what happened. And I eventually made my way through a couple of people that could guide me through this a little bit. And I went to the very first UFO conference. There really wasn't any in those days, and it was at the San Francisco Airport Hilton Hotel. There was a very young Richard C. Hoagland. Nobody really knew who he was, because he was not famous then. He was a reporter of some kind, and he's an interested. There was a very young Stanton Friedman. He was a notable name because I'd seen him in the magazine, UFO magazine, and I sat down with J. Allen Hynek, the founder of the whole thing, Project Blue Book, and as he was interviewing me, I thought, this is the go-to guy. This is the go-to guy, you know. And this gentleman was sitting to my right, and he kept butting in. I didn't really want to deal with him because I was so focused on Hynek with the little recorder where you put the cassette in and you put the little plastic lid down, and he was recording my conversation. And finally I turned around to address the man that sat to my right. And I turned around, and it's William Shatner. And I'm like,
okay.
You're kidding me. I'm just looking at him going, you're kidding me. And he goes, well, tell us what else happened. And I'm thinking, wow, he sounds just like himself. You know, because you see him on TV. And I'm thinking, this guy's sitting here listening to my story. I'm looking at J. Allen Hynek. I'm looking at William Shatner and thinking, these guys are for real, I think. They're really listening to this story. And then came the photograph. Now, how did the photograph come about? You can see it at my website at robertperala.com.
Yeah, I just tweeted it out, by the way. You're talking about the Jeff Greenshaw.
That photograph was taken by Jeff Greenshaw in Falkville, Alabama in 1973. And he saw what appeared to be three astronauts, four actually, that appeared on the road, and he had got two shots out of it. He got one as a single shot and all four as almost a vaporous apparition. And when I saw the picture in the UFO magazine, as I was just starting to get the idea that maybe it had something to do with extraterrestrials, I was astonished when I saw there was a photograph. You only see about 10%, 15, 20% of what's there. The shape, the suit, the visor. You don't see the orange antenna, but there's a little white dot at the top where the end of the antenna is. It was unmistakable. That was what I saw. Just add all the lightning and the rainbow colors of light and make the suit, illumined a bit, and you have exactly what I saw. And I thought, God, somebody else has actually seen these. Now, to this day, only I know that there's a woman named Clarissa Bernhardt in New York who'd be lovely to be on your show, who told me quite a bit about these entities. And then there was Jeff Greenshaw, who took the photo. Not many have seen whatever this was. And here I am with you.
Yeah, this picture over the years has always, freaked me out when I saw it the first time. And whenever I get a little creeped out. There's something about it. You can kind of look at this two ways. Okay, it's a dude wearing, tinfoil wrapped around his body. There's that. And then there's the other thing that it doesn't look correct. It doesn't look like somebody wearing tinfoil on his body. There's you can look at it two ways. And I look at it, and there's this creepy thing about it, and I don't know how to quite explain it, but it doesn't look, before anybody goes, Jimmy, come on. I'm telling you, to me, it doesn't feel human. It doesn't got the human vibe to it. It just does. The arms are too short. They're too fat. There's the head doesn't look right. It's out of proportion. Mm-hmm. And but yet the feet look like it's somebody. The feet and the legs look human, but everything above the waist doesn't correlate. It doesn't with my eyeballs, at least.
Well, you have to ask yourself, could this be an artist's rendition of what somebody saw and decided to try to mock this up and then sell this idea as people do today with the modern social media tools? How did this come into the hands of Mr. Greenshaw? I mean, these are questions I've not been able to answer. All I know is that's basically what I saw. If you had all the colors and the energy around it, wow.
And the
it's a
head,
long time ago
well,
for me.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, the head in the helmet. Did your heart leap out of your chest when you saw this?
Well, yeah, I was terrified. I didn't have any control over the situation when it happened because they came in very quickly, and there was just this storm, and then suddenly, as I started to scream, it was like I was stuck in position, and I couldn't move. It felt as though my sort of voice was almost in a separate room behind me, like I was yelling, but it was like there was an echo behind me, as if my own consciousness or my own voice was pulled back somewhat. And then suddenly I was hurtled into this tunnel. There was no not going. It was just sort of, you went along with it, and I never really thought after it was over, and even there needs to be one thing mentioned here, and that is while I went to Mr. Hynek and these other guys that were there that day, I only went to just a few people, and then I didn't speak about it for 15 years. In 1992, I started to speak about it a little bit. In July 15th, 1993, I did my first lecture, and then it just never stopped.
We're going to be up against a break in just a couple of minutes, so let me kind of set up after the break. Looking back, there's a couple of stages to this. There's your memory, the next day of what happened, and then your memory of the last 37 years. Were you able to recall more and more of the events of that evening and what happened to you, or was it just as fresh the next day? Did you remember everything?
Well, it came in parts, and I remembered quite vividly what it was, because something like that was so imprinted on my brain. If there was any speaking to me, I to this day don't know that even took place. In 1992, I was working with a hypnotherapist who kind of did some regression on me, and then told me some things about the event itself. And that also included the woman, Clarissa, I was telling you about, who told me, without me telling her anything about this event, nothing. In 1978, when I went to her, only 3 months after this had happened, she looked at me and she told me that this recorder wouldn't work. And then she told me they're tall and they're silver and they have orange antennas and they have visors. And I didn't tell her a word to her. And I said, "How would you know that?" And she says, I understand what these are. And I don't want to run over the break, but maybe after the break we can certainly pick up on what she had to say, because I was amazed that anybody could do a reading and tell me in detail what these things actually were without me telling her anything. So psychics are very real, rare but real.
When those 3 months, and this is, we'll pick up right after the break right here, those 3 months, and then, of course, sitting down with Clarissa. Those 3 months, why did you find the need to shut the world off? I mean, was it your answer to that, or you just couldn't communicate? Why would you choose to close the door to the world?
One, it was a real state of shock for me, Jimmy. I was really scared. I looked out the window a lot every day, and as I went to bed, I thought, God, those things aren't going to come back, are they? And they never did. In fact, what's odd is I haven't even had a dream even about them in all this time, and I lucid dream even. I don't know. Just very scary experience, and I decided not to. I didn't think anybody would believe me. When I was sitting in the movie theater, I saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and there was a scene in there where Roy Neary, played by Richard Dreyfuss, is on the railroad tracks in the truck, and he looks up at this bright light, and he gets a sunburn on half of his face. When I saw that in the movie theater, I about vaulted out of my chair, and I said, that happened to me. I got a sunburn. I can tell you about that. And I thought, how could they? There must be other people writing or knowing about this. And I thought, I'm going to play it safe and not tell anybody right now, because I just thought it was a better policy. I just didn't think anybody'd believe a young 22-year-old like me.
Yeah, especially in 1977. You're absolutely right. Those were different days. This is Fade to Black. Let's take a quick break. Tonight, Robert Perala is with us for the duration. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bespoke Radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay right there.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRAradio.com.
Hey, everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Go Beckley Tepe.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Everybody, welcome back. This is Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the masses. I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Robert Perala is with us. Hey, Robert.
Yeah.
What do you think of that guitar player right there? Pretty good, huh?
Extraordinary. Love it. He's obviously a pedal master.
Yeah, you like that, huh? What do you think?
I do.
Yeah,
do we know him? Do we know him?
It's me.
Yeah, well, you're going to be in my band.
Yeah.
I got to have that.
That's not me. That's Doug Aldrich. Man, he can play.
Oh,
though.
Doug.
Yeah, and yeah, right. Because you're a player, and I know when you, as a player, you listen to stuff like that, and you're like, "Holy crap, man! That's really good." That's really good. Yeah, that's Doug Aldrich. So, and anyway, back to this 3-month period, and I was always curious about this with you. I've had my experiences too, as well. I've had 3, 4, maybe 5 little things in my life that like this, and I didn't talk about it either, and I didn't share it with anybody. And you did just that. You shut down. The door was closed for 3 months. And for you, what were you asking yourself about life, that things are all not what they say they are? Is that what was going through your mind, or were you scared? Why 3 months of no communication? Because when you shut the door, you're not necessarily closing the world out, but you're also closing yourself in too as well. It could have a bad effect. So that's why I'm curious. Why 3 months, and what went on for those 3 months?
Well, it was such a shock to my system. I thought, I'll go inwards. I'm going to buy some books. I'm just going to take it easy. I didn't feel like socializing it really at all. I thought, this something happened here. I kept going over that every single day. And then I kept thinking that something very special has happened here. And I'm not sure it's all good, and I'm not sure it's all bad. But I gotta find out what this is. So I went to a metaphysical bookstore in Los Gatos, and I found a book called Alien Meetings by Brad Steiger. And I read this story about Clarissa Bernhardt. She described these tall astronaut-like characters with these visors and these suits and everything, and I thought, wow, she must know. So one day I called her, and her husband answered the phone, and he had a little bit of time, and he said, well, tell me what happened. And that's what I told him what happened. He goes, I'll tell you what, I want you to come here tomorrow at about noontime. Just come down here tomorrow, and I want you to spend some time with my wife. She's got some time here. We don't hear anybody that's ever called us that's actually seen what we've seen and what we understand here. This is very rare. He might have told me, I think, actually, that there was maybe one other than me, but it was almost non-existent. I went the next day. I brought my cassette recorder, the one with the little cassettes you put in. You push the plastic door down, you press play and record, right?
Right.
Yeah, and they go by batteries or they go by plugging in the wall. I made sure I had fresh batteries, and I made sure I had my cord so I could plug it in the wall, because I'm thinking, well, this lady is going to take me seriously, and I think she's seen something like this. And this is where the whole thing begins to take a wild turn, because the whole thing's wild anyway. I'm in my apartment. I don't want to tell anybody about what this really is. I'm scared. Some of me was excited. I thought, well, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe this is a good thing somehow, but I just didn't know what it was. Read her story, went and saw her, sat down, and the first thing she told me is, listen, your recorder's not going to work here. And I said, oh, yes, it will, sure. And I plugged it in the wall, and I pressed play, and I thought, well, that's weird. It doesn't work. She said, it's not going to work here in this appointment. I said, well, check the batteries, everything. She goes, this is just for you to know right now. Take this at a step at a time. She says, okay, let me tell you what I think you saw. Okay, in your house, did the ceiling sort of become illumined? Is there a storm of some kind? And I just looked at her really intently, and I sort of said, okay, continue.
Yeah,
That's really good. I thought, wow, this is some kind of psychic. This is like, a real serious, I called them fortune tellers then. I thought, this is a serious fortune teller.
Right.
Because that's all I knew they were. I didn't have the whereabouts, use the word clairvoyant, medium, or something more mature.
Madam.
So
Madam.
I'm still calling her Madam half the time.
Madam.
I'm supposed to be wearing a turban or something,
A crystal ball, yeah.
Exactly. What happened to all that in a little table with the stars on it, And so she says, okay, so then there's this storm. It's very loud. And then there's, it looks like 3 of these entities that come down. And these are wearing these, and she described everything right down to their hands were more like mittens. They actually didn't have like hands like we had at all. They were covered in this great big foiled suit of some sort. And she said, and then they take you through a tunnel. I said, yeah, it wasn't very pleasant, but yeah, I definitely saw a tunnel unlike anything I'd ever saw. And so she said, then they brought you back, right? I said, yes, they did. And she says, okay. So you have met what we call them space brothers for a lack of a better term. And these are like scientists. They're sort of cosmic cosmonauts that travel through space, and they look for people who are ready, that they're going to take them into an experience. But that's only just the beginning. This will play out later in your life as you grow, and you will talk to others about this. And it will include other things, which it does. Eventually it included, behavioral science and getting this, the degree in that, and then all these other things that I do as an older man now. And then she said, "Now I'm going to tell you something. You got to really just take it easy when I tell you this." I said, "Okay." And it was the first time I ever heard anybody say this. She said, "They're related to you." And I about fell out of my chair, and I thought, oh my God, this story just keeps getting deeper and weirder. Oh God, please, please don't tell me that you said that. They're related to me. I'm having a meltdown. I have a sunburn. I'm soaked in all this goo. I'm taken out of the house into a painful tunnel of light, and now you tell me these guys are related to me. My heart stopped, Jimmy.
And what did she mean? I know she explained it. What did she mean by that?
She meant that we as people here are related to a vast community. And that vast community is kind of coming and going and checking in on people as they watch an Earth person who's from birth into life, into experiences, into its mission of growth, to watch how the spirit and the soul grows here and what it goes through. And then when we're done and we leave the body in the material plane, we go to the other side, we go back to joining these people that we're actually with. And it turns out that almost everything is in reverse. We actually live on the other side most of the time. And then we come into the material plane here as an adjunct, you might say, to your spiritual studies to further the evolution of your own awareness of spiritual principle. And so there's a long story I could get into about how you even watch your own birth, and many people watch their own birth. The doctors can't see them or hear them. They just see a baby form coming out crying under bright lights. But actually, there's that part. And then there's this part where we're related to all these people on the other side that sort of get to peek in on us from time to time. Now, in this case, they may not be necessarily discarnates or even parents of some kind through a previous lifetime. These seem to be more scientists, observers of some kind that seem to decide that I was the one that would be taken and then brought back. And then I met all these extraordinary people in May of that year at the first UFO conference. It was like, wow, I didn't even know they had such a thing, a convention for UFOs. It almost seemed laughable at the time.
And with the tunnel trip that happened, what specifically did you see? Let me back up. Did you have a clear memory of that, or did you get that out of regression?
No, that was just burned in my brain. I'd never forget that. It wasn't recalled later. I knew it. In fact, when I first came out of it, I was sort of convulsing, and I would close my eyes and I could see it. It was almost like I was still in it. And then I open my eyes, I go, I'm in the room and it's dark. And this is our Lake Tahoe house, and it's 2 days. It must be 2 days after Christmas. And I was thinking of the year. It's 1977 because it started really, the 26th, the day after Christmas. It was sort of like we went to bed that night. Then it went through midnight to probably around 2:30, and it was actually on the 27th, right around that time. I don't know the exact time, but I'm estimating it must have been only a couple hours after, 2-3 hours after I went to sleep, and then they came in the house, and it's like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and so what did you see in the tunnel, Robert?
It's as brilliant silver white light, as brilliant as you can possibly imagine. And then I remember there were millions of little speckles, like somebody throws glitter in your face. It would be like riding your bike as fast as you can. I'm kind of making an analogy of this. I've never done this before. It would be like riding your bike as fast as you can, and there's a guy in front of you who opens up a can of glitter. and the glitter is just all these different colors. It's just hurling into your face. And you're going through this white tunnel of white silver light, and these speckles are just racing through you. And it was not a pleasant experience at all. I just hung on. I do remember one point when I surrendered. When I surrendered and I realized I was going to die, and I surrendered to it, it sort of let me go a little bit. It wasn't nearly as bad. It wasn't nearly as painful. And as soon as I had a little bit of resistance, like, oh no, I don't want to do this, it picked way back up again. And then I suddenly thought, okay, I'll die. I'll just, even when you lie on your back and you're just, take me, this is it, this is the way it ended. And it would ease up on me a little bit. So I knew that somehow later on I deducted that if I went with it, it would be better. If I didn't go with it, it would be painful. So it was mostly painful. I didn't want to go in this thing at all. When I saw it, the wall fall away and the tunnel there, it's the craziest thing. I don't know. I just flipped out. I didn't want to go. And then suddenly, I went through. Now can't say that these astronauts went through with me.
That was my
next,
I know. That was my next question. Were you alone, or could you see
I was
them?
alone.
You were alone.
As far as I know, I was alone. I never saw them. It was like they opened up the side of the house and they fired me through this thing. And then when I came back, they were standing in the same place.
So what happened at the end of the tunnel?
Well, suddenly I'm in a sphere. I don't know. It was just illumined on below me, around me, on the left of me, right of me. It was like I was in a. Sounds funny. I can't for your listeners to explain the shape, but it was in the shape of like an M&M. The inside of the room wasn't like round. It was more like closed in on the top and the bottom a little bit, and it was saucer shaped. It was like a saucer. It wasn't real big. I don't remember it being really, really big. And the center section was higher, and it had this glass like obelisk of some kind. It seemed to interface with me or absorb. I always felt like it absorbed me. It took me somehow. And then once it absorbed me or whatever, then suddenly it like let go of me, and then suddenly I was going back to the tunnel. So I don't remember being in that room very long, and there was certainly nobody waiting for me. I only knew that when I got back lower down on the bed, I was screaming for my life, and then suddenly when it was all over, I was just soaked, this like honey. I always say later on I was the first guy to get slimed.
Yeah.
And then I learned that other people have experienced the goo-like material, and some were deducting, and they'll go as far as to say what it was and what it's for, which was a protectant of some kind while I go through this. And then I was just red head to toe, front and back. I was just sunburned.
You were toasted.
Yeah.
Now
I know it sounds crazy.
Inside of the sphere, the M&M. I like that description, by the way. While you were there, you were only there for an instant, but did you? And especially looking back with hindsight, do you think you were on a ship, or were you just in another dimension on the other side?
Yeah, I believe I was, in a ship of some kind. And as far as being on the other side, it was later that I sort of realized. I mean, Betty Eadie, from her book, Embraced by the Light, said it really eloquently one time, and it always stayed with me. She said, I realized when I was on the other side that my life stretched backwards and forwards, and in ways I'd never even dreamed possible. And I also understood that many layers, that there was an existence of layers within layers. So you might have to have a lot of room for that. So that's why these, whatever is coming here, can operate quietly and watch this channel in the third dimensional reality and be in a completely different experience. And then there's layers of that too. There's sort of these dimensional levels. It takes a lot for your head to get around it. And the esoteric metaphysicians around the world all kinds have tried to describe it eloquently, but it's basically an existence within an existence. So, I thought it was definitely, later on reading said, yes, it was definitely a ship, and they definitely took you aboard. They definitely sent you aboard.
What
so
were you?
I
didn't mean to cut you off. That was
no.
The walls, you describe it as translucent, transparent. What was on the other side? Do you remember? If it was a ship, were you above Earth? Were you above your house?
No.
Or
don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. I could have been 50 feet above the house. I could have been 50 light years away. I don't know.
Right.
But it took a while to go through the tunnel. It whatever that was, it was hurling in awfully fast. And I was in it for a while. So my feeling is that it took me somewhere perhaps very, very far away for an instant and then brought back.
Incredible, just incredible.
Yeah.
And you've described this pain, and what was that? Was it head to toe? Was it in your chest? Was it in on your skin? Was it inside? Describe.
I've been saying for years. It was like diving in a bed of hot white coals and then surviving the experience. Your mind doesn't have room for that. It was just so god awful painful.
Yeah, that's not cool. That's not cool at all.
No, it's not. And my story's not like other people's stories too, which is, you don't usually hear that. I didn't see gray men, and I didn't get abducted. I had a long talk with Travis Walton when we were out there at Contact in the Desert, and we were sort of comparing each other's notes. And his experience wasn't tremendously different from mine, except for he was standing outside, and he later said that this beam of light that hit him, he later now has deducted that it wasn't there to really stun him or harm him. It was a natural it was arcing, the ship was arcing, and he just stepped in the wrong place. And he said it stunned me. And then probably once they realized that he was alone and that the other, loggers that were with him had taken off for their lives, they had decided to take him, and he woke up inside the room, and that's where he sees what he saw. And by the way, the movie, he says, is not actually that accurate to his experience. He says he wants to remake the film.
Yeah.
And, he wants to tell it the way that it really is.
Yeah, he said, and not to get away from your story, but he said one thing with me a few times. He said that he feels like, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that they hurt him, and they felt bad about it, and they were just trying to make sure he didn't die. They were trying to fix him, and that's to get him back, and that's an interesting way to look at it. That they didn't really mean him any harm. He was just the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So
the real thing.
Yeah, exactly. You come back. And you've got this honey material on you, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You're sunburned from head to toe, and I'm sure the first question you asked yourself, which is the question I'm going to ask right now: why did they do it?
Yeah, I didn't get that far.
You're right.
I was still saying, "What happened? What happened?" And I was just having a meltdown. I thought, "God, what happened? What is that? What is this?" And I thought I must have had some incredible dream. But when does the dream soak you and suntan you? And you wake up before it's still daylight, when you're still, and you come back and you have all this stuff on you. I later had heard, people say they've lucid dreamed and woke up with leaves in their bed. They say, from being actually somewhere. I don't know that happened to me. I couldn't describe it. All I know is that they have the ability to somehow take you and bring you back, and there's different methods, and some, the person survives quite well, and others that don't even know anything's even happened or will deny it. There are people that are taken all the time that have no idea anything's even happened. And if they do have recollection of it, some of them go into denial and say, no, that was a dream. Because their mind doesn't have room for that. They see it as like, okay, this is only in the movies. These are Lionsgate films or something.
Yeah.
And their mind can't go there. I mean, I have my sister, Jimmy. She's she comes up to me. She's all this time she's going, "Come on, Robert, come on. Why? What do you have to be into this for? Can't you just be normal? First it was extraterrestrials, and then it was trying to raise the dead and bring Dad back. You're scaring the family. Come on."
Right.
And she sees everything as like, this is what it is. This is what you get. And for me, I was almost the opposite. I wanted to tap holes into the universe before all this happened, just by sheerly wanting to be connected to the source via Eastern mysticism a little bit, and I was a neophyte in it, I later, actually, believe it or not, in 2005, traveled with Paul McCartney on 5 of his U.S. date tours, and I was in the Adopt a Minefield campaign, and I was supporting the Adopt a Minefield campaign. And I later hear him talking at a dinner. I was very fortunate. Tom Dan and I was fortunate to go that night, too. We were at a dinner, 1,000 people, sit-down dinner and everything, and he talked a little bit about Maharishi, and I thought, wow, here he's talking about the Maharishi. I'm right here in front of him in this ballroom. It was incredible. And he said that was one of his biggest influences, and that it opened him up to the possibility, the sort of possibility and everything. And he just made some references to, about George and about how they were all so into it and everything. And he says, and today I like to do things for people. And that's why we're here tonight, to talk about people who are amputees and people that are victims of anti-personal landmines, And so Paul was in it for, he's always sort of respected that whole Maharishi thing, and it was a huge influence on me, So
well,
he's a wonderful way of putting you at ease, too. Dave, if you ever meet Paul McCartney, he's a wonderful way of putting you at ease, because when I met him, I shook hands with him. I came about 4 feet off the ground, and he is a lovely way of sort of putting you at ease.
Well, you met the fake Paul, so
that's what they say.
Now, also, and with your experience, there could have been, and I know you've heard this, but I want your opinion. What if it was us and not them? There's that possibility too, and this experience was some kind of psyop, and you were taken through a tunnel. Yes, you were, but that this was us messing with you. And when you hear that, how do you react?
I personally don't resonate that much with that idea. I don't discount it as a possibility, because I know that there are things going on that stagger our imagination, and they're on your show. You have those people that the sensational arts of, what they can do as far as beaming something at you or God knows what. But
right.
I never really, saw it as probably a government thing. It was definitely an off-world thing. It had an eeriness. I remember very distinctly having this feeling, emotion in me that I'd never had before. I do vaguely remember definitely that there was something like a very ancient, old feel, as if somebody from 12 million years came back to meet with me. It felt, for some, I don't know how I can say that even. I really don't know how I can say that. But I remember feeling that it was like something old and something very, 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 very far away and everything. And so I thought, why would I feel that? I mean, why would I even think like that,
And what about communication? Was there any communication? Were you saying anything? Was there anything that came back to you?
No, I would have been nice if they had said something like, be calm, this will be easier for you. It would have been nice if they said, you're not dying, or said anything to me. But they may have, but I just don't remember anything. I don't have any words to tell people. I've been telling this story for decades now, and it's always been the same story. I'm only telling the story exactly the way I know that I can tell it from my own experience. And I know I don't worry about people out there that say, well, I doubt this, Robert. You're okay, well, that's lovely. Doubt it. Just consider the possibility,
And why you? Why you? It happens to people all the time, but
right.
Why you? And I've got to come back to your family too as well. Don't let that get away from me. But why you?
So the way I figured that this must be is there's two ideas. That one, this is an agreement maybe that happened before I was even birthed. The other thing is I did actually ask in my meditations, I said, can I have like some kind of experience where I can know God and be hooked up? And I looked out to even the night before, I looked out to the stars, and I actually said, is there anything out there? If there's anything out there, I'd be very curious, and I believe there's life out there. And it was sort of almost half jokingly, and it was looking up at the stars. I'd done probably a 20-minute meditation and just sort of looked up there, because it was such a crystalline night. I didn't really ask for anybody to come and visit me. I asked to be connected. And I think that's what the meditation was about. I was wanting to know that if you meditated, would you connect to something? And I think a lot of people go very, very spiritual in their life because they have something previous, like trauma, abuse, codependency, narcissism, some kind of addiction, some kind of family trauma.
Yes.
And they want to seek refuge in the divine. And some people turn to Jesus as a Christian. Some people will turn to Muhammad or will turn to a modern-day deity like His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Buddha.
Buddha. I mean, they're looking to be just connected. I was too, but I didn't know what to really ask for. I didn't ask necessarily for anything. I just said I'd just like to know if there's anything, if I'm a part of this. And I just started to sort of breathe in, and that's all it was. I didn't say, spacemen, come and visit me. And I didn't know enough to ask anything like that. I just thought, you breathe in like Maharishi says, and then you breathe out. And then you do that a bunch of times while you're sitting still. And I sat outside. It was cold because it was snowing. And it wasn't snowing at the time, but there was snow on the ground. And then I'm not saying that they necessarily heard it that night and said, okay, we're here, we're coming now.
Right.
This may have been coincidental because it wasn't the first night that I ever asked for something to come and be connected to the universe. I'd been doing that for, some time,
And since then, let me back up. See, I told you're going to let me forget about your family. That night, I want to move on from the experience, but that night, did they hear anything? Were they aware of anything going on with you?
Nothing.
Not a
thing. Not a thing. After eventually, when I did finally pass out for the final time, I woke up, opened my eyes, and my mother was standing over me, and my sister was slightly behind her, and it was 12 noon. I was lying there, and they said, are you ever going to get up? And I just sort of looked around, and I didn't say anything. And then wow, you really got your face is burned, because I had been on a skiing, I was skiing the previous day.
Was it just your face, by the way, or was it your
whole body? My whole body.
Yeah.
It was my whole body.
And did you show
I
that?
just didn't.
Did you you didn't show them your butt?
Nope. Didn't show. When they were sort of out of sight, I picked up my sleeping bag and I ran upstairs and I just sat there for a while. And I thought, this didn't happen. Nothing happened. And at first I'm going to dismiss this. This can't be happening. And then I thought, God, but look at my arms, look at my legs. But the material, the gooey stuff was just gone. It just either evaporated or whatever. It was gone. And it was fairly, pronounced. It was a soapy kind of material, kind of a soap with honey or something. It had a tackiness about it.
And
it had a smoothness about it.
Did it smell?
No, not that I remember. I don't remember smelling anything.
And what about the tunnel? Any problems breathing or anything like that?
Only for the fact that when you're screaming like that, you might be breathing. I, for one, thought this is death. I thought it was death. Yeah. I was willing for it to be death, There's sort of a caveat to this whole thing. So, what does one get out of all this? Well, eventually it led to everything else, It just led to behavioral science. It led to 30 years of talking to other people, not as a clinical doctor, but as a listener, groups, I lead a monthly. I've been in therapy for years. I've taught behavioral science. I've sat in class and learned behavioral science. I've learned about a lot of connected arts in around the nature of existence itself, and then eventually got a very strong personal growth regimen that I prescribed every day. A lot like Bruce Lipton or these other guys that say, practice the virtues every day. If you want to cut to the chase of this whole thing, people try to chase down the deity, they try to chase down the religion. They're going to get to a certain avenue. It's the right one. We know it is, and this is the right God, and this is the right... Actually, at the end of the day, I said, you know what? If you did nothing but really focus on the virtues are kindness, tolerance, compassion, unconditional love, selflessness, service, non-judgment, all those kind of qualities. If you master those, you find that you're in harmony with the universe, and it doesn't really matter about the deities. They still are there, for the most part. Yeah, sure. But you will grow leaps and bounds if you realize that your purpose here is to divinely grow, and that you have the opportunity to do that in a profound way, but only for a period. Because when it's done and the time is up, then it's done. Then the agreement's over, and then you go back to the other side, and then you'll remember how this all sort of fits together, and it'll all make sense again. And you'll almost laugh if I told you that some people die, open their eyes, see a park, close their briefcase, put the latches shut, stand up, and they walk home. Would you trust me to say that that's one version of what happens to some people when they die? There's not always the big transition of the judgment and hierarchy and all that structure, but that some people, this will be a dream, and they've just simply slipped into another reality. They would deny it. They'd say, I'm sorry, there's been a mistake.
Have you had any contact with them since?
No, I have not. That's not to say that I didn't have contact with other things. Along the path, there have been a few other visitors, yes, but never a dream about these characters.
Right.
I don't feel particularly traumatized at all by it anymore. It's been so long. At the time, the first 3 months were really, really like taking baby steps. And I thought about it every day, all day. And I would talk to people, and they would say, what's with you? You're not listening here and everything. Because I'd be hearing them talk, but I'd be thinking about the experience. And then I would never say anything to them. And I would just sort of walk around in this daze or going, I couldn't get over it. I thought, this must have happened. And then it was only when I saw Clarissa Bernhardt that she had this bizarre reading that was so accurate without me telling her anything. So,
Well, and how if you don't feel traumatized now, would you do it again? I mean, or would you put up a fight, knowing about the pain that you went through and everything else? But you do know now that when you look to the stars, that we're not alone. So not too many people get to have that question answered for them. You have. And so would you do it again? If they came to you tonight after this program, would you put up a fight, or would you go and start asking the questions that you didn't ask last time?
Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's a very tough question. A lot of me says, yes, I actually would go through it again. And even as painful as it was, and the only reason that I said I would go through it again is could I have a better understanding of what this really was, and have some questions answered. Could you communicate with me, in a peaceful way, and tell me, where you came from? What is your origin? Why am I here with you? Why would this even be important to you? Why not someone else? I would if I was taken with them, and let's say they took me into a room and they remove their helmets, and we find out that these are men and women like you and I who have just simply benefited from greater time and greater knowledge. And I think that's the part that needs to be added here, is that the alien agenda and all these books, icons, Facebook, and all these images and the movies describing these, grayish character with big black almond-shaped eyes, you know the gig, right? Is not exactly what's happening here all the time. They always focus on that, but what needs to be mentioned here is there are men and women that are coming here. They're benefiting from greater time and greater knowledge. And a large part of these are coming from what the Bible calls the seven sisters. This is in the Pleiades. And this area of stars is where humans come from. And they're coming from a cluster that's called Taygeta, Maya, Electra, Era, Alcyon, Merope, Serope. Depending on who you're listening to, it could be 7, even maybe as many as 9 systems. But these are men and women that are coming. It says in the lost books of Job, believe it or not, that's not included in the Bible you read today in the Standard or King James Version, but in the lost books of Bible, and you can find this in Bible colleges and metaphysical Bible stores or whatever, that it says, you are descendants of the house of Pleiades, and the house of Orion, and the house of Arcturus. And it explains how we're coming from this aspect. And it kept mentioning in several sections about you are descendants of the house of Pleiades, and will honor, and it made reference to like a law or an understanding to that, a principle of some kind. And I thought, wow, they actually mention this in the lost books of Job. That's incredible. There are 11 books to Matthew, and most people don't know that.
And when you look at yourself now, and how we're going into another completely different direction, but it's all connected. When you look at yourself now and self-growth, is it because you know that there is something on the other side, and that we are just souls, and our very cells and our bodies are controlled by our mind, and the universe is all connected through that, and those questions are answered just from that one meeting, that one night in 1977?
Well, that sparks it and starts it.
Exactly.
It's later that I realized, Jimmy, that we're actually all walking with a committee. And this is a group of people that know us, and know us in some ways differently than we know ourselves. And that committee interchanges. It's not always the same people, and there are other people that come in and check on and look and see. And some can even be a discarnate, a lost loved one. This is how psychics pick up, your dead mother that's been here, dead for 13 years, and guess what? She's just entered the room and she wants to tell you this. A lot of that is extraordinarily real. But there are other visitors. There's also the angelics, the seraphim, the cherubim, the B'nai Elohim. There's those. There's a host of other characters that are more science observer-oriented, that are more of the ET faction. And then there's just this committee that walks with you. If you get a divine thought and you think to yourself, wow, that's unbelievable, a thought. And then you know how you lose it like 30 seconds or a minute later and you go, oh, what was that?
Right.
You can't even remember what that even was. Sometimes you're standing right next to them and they just literally are sharing a dialogue with your higher self, your the subconscious and the higher self, and there's an engaging, and then it filters down into your ego, and you think, holy cow, you ever had those flashes where you're a genius for about 10 seconds, and then it lets you go, and you go, what was that?
I'm doing that right now, Robert.
That's because you're on Jimmy Church Radio. That's right. That's where it's not only happening to us, but it's happening to you, folks. I tell you. If we're not too close to the commercial, I got something really funny
We're exactly 15 minutes away.
I'll tell you what, let's do this for the audience, because you'll get a kick out of this, okay?
Do it.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I'll say, do you believe in, and then it'll be so-and-so, and you just say yes really quickly. You don't give it a lot of thought, just say yes and play along with me, okay?
Okay, all right.
Okay, here we go. You're at Jimmy Church Radio. The question remains, do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Do you believe in the supernatural?
Yes.
Do you believe in the unbelievable or simply fantastic?
Both.
Do you believe in UFOs, angels, or extraterrestrials?
All of the above.
Is your furniture moving by itself?
Yes.
Then if all these things are happening, by God, you are on one of the best radio stations that this country has to offer. You're at Jimmy Church Radio.
It was funny when he said the furniture moving. My chair, I had my feet off the ground like a little kid, and I'm spinning. Like at a counter in at an ice cream parlor, and you're a little kid, and my feet are off the ground, and my chair was moving by itself. As you asked that question. So I ask you, Robert, what is the secret of the universe? And when you are around cats like Lipton, and you're around people that they could be intimidating, but they're not, and they seem to have answers. The key to life. What is yours? What is the key to the universe?
We're all on the same journey looking for that key. And that key is appearing differently to every different soul that walks through here. Everybody that sort of wanted to switch on and tap into what they would call the divine intelligence or the source, the answer to the is, as seeks that in a sort of a different way and everything. I just sort of am a traveler. I just trust it and go along and have my trials and tribulations and try to figure out these principles. I'd say one of the answers I would give if I was looking for the key to the universe is to try to be awake and not be aware to just while you're down here. Don't be so socio-conditioned. I see people just absolutely bombarded with images, social media images and movies and escapism, or, worse than that, narcotics or whatever. And they just disappear into this, and they're missing the point of really a great opportunity. I would say that the key is like it's to be awake to the opportunity of really what's here and the possibility. So they say, well, all right, Rob, you kind of sound like the intergalactic Tony Robbins. I really get it,
Right.
There's a little pep talk there and everything, but actually it's probably just to keep it simple and to seek, that divine aspect of, why are you here, and how can I improve? How, you're not here to hold the hurt, you're here to heal the hurt. And actually, I think everything's in reverse. I think we are actually sort of in basically what would be considered like hell. It's the other way around. We're also worried, oh, I'm not good, I'll go down below to this Hades and there'll be these guys with these pitchforks. It's not like, that's a metaphor. We're actually kind of here. You see what's going on here, and where there's the good and the bad and the ugly that have all been put on the material plane. So the good are going to go down over there, and help in a humanitarian relief effort. And the ones that don't understand the principles are consumed by committees also that are on the other side, because this is a game that's sort of being played out physically. The ones that are the extremists and say, all right, we got to get rid of all these people. It's just like Hitler said, okay, listen, the problem is this Jewish community. This we got to deal with this, and that's all a complete fabricated illusion, and he's under like a form of mind control. These entities are quite powerful, and they can get a hold of you, and they can do all kinds of incredible things. I always thought that the night John Lennon was shot by Mark David Chapman, when he fires 5 shots into John and then sits down, sets the gun down on the pavement, and picks up the book A Catcher in the Rye.
Right.
And reads a book as though he had just stopped in the park and stopped on a park bench and started reading his book out of curiosity. And the guard screams to him, do you realize what you've just done? And kicks the gun away. And then, of course, everybody's alerted. They've heard the shots, and it was only seconds before people arrived on the scene. And he goes in, and they psychoanalyze him, and he goes, I have no idea. I wasn't even there tonight. Did I do that? And you're thinking, oh boy, this goes really deep, this stuff, doesn't it?
Well, and when you talk about the committee, and after the break, I want to get into this in the divine intelligence a bit more in depth. But is our is our future predetermined? Is that, or can we change that? Or are we destined to go on one path? But can we change it, and how do we do that?
A short form before we go to break would look like.
We have 10 minutes. We have 10
okay,
minutes.
Can you imagine a checkerboard? And on the checkerboard, there are horizontal lines, and then there are vertical lines, right? And then one square is red and one square is black, like a checkerboard, okay? Now take out the black and take out the red, and now what you have is just a checkerboard that's white where the lines intersect, right? What I like to, as a metaphor to explain how this might work, is where the lines intersect are predetermined possibilities of what can happen to you. In other words, a set of conditions. You're born, you enter into this matrix. Later on, you grow up and you meet up with these people, and then you make decisions that take you right or left. And where these lines intersect are sort of the unavoidable apexes. You're going to run into these predetermined events, and you may not run into them in order that makes sense to you at all. The section in the middle where, where the square is, the white portion, that is the realm of possibility. That is where no one, not even the angels, know what the outcome is going to be. That's what we call the free will zone. In the free will zone, even those that stand on the other side that watch the soul on the material plane don't even know which decision he's going to choose. It's almost, they take bets almost, going, I bet he goes for it. And the other one says, no, I don't think he will. And then, you finally find out the person makes a decision and then makes a decision. But that free will zone is what's here. And that's why we're seeing this openness of just anything and everything, the very worst of the worst and the very best of the best.
Why is it that we all, you, myself, every listener listening right now, all day long, we are faced with the right or the wrong? The decision. The decision is very simple, and it could be as simple as making an illegal lane change or driving too fast, or something. Just something. It could be all of it. And you have the right and you have the wrong. And why is it so easy for us to go down the wrong path when we know the wrong path leads to complications? It's a speeding ticket. It's going to court. You're going to have to pay for this. If you make the right decision, and then you don't have to answer for yourself. You don't have to lie. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to. It's the easier. But we go down the wrong road. Why do we do that constantly when we know before we make that decision that it's the wrong one? Why do we do that?
Yeah, this is all about the ego, isn't it? The ego is always looking for gratification, and it's looking for fulfillment, and it's got a hungry appetite. It really does. And then there's the rational analytical mind, and the rational analytical mind says, if we do this, there's going to be consequences, and I should know better than this. And the ego says, no. But you remember, you will get gratification from this. There'll be an elevation in your emotions. Your mood will change dramatically. You're going to find something you really like here. And they say, all right, let's do the deal. And so they go for whatever the deal is, that pleases them, and we compromise ourselves constantly. Not all of us really are that aware of spiritual principles, and a lot of us don't even know they even exist, and we just make a flippant decision based on just how we feel at the moment. Other more enlightened souls that are walking around know quite well that there's a karmic debt, and that if you create, something like really harm someone or take a life, it may not affect you in the immediate at all. But I've seen many people. I'm great friends with Danny and Brinkley. He taught me the work of visiting hospice patients at the end of life care. I got about 300 hours at the bedside by learning that kind of work, and I would hear people there's nothing like hearing a person who has just heard the news, where the doctors come in the office, right? And he says, look, you've got 6 weeks to lift off. Destination? Unknown.
Right.
And the look on that person's face of, my life is coming to conclusion. And they said, you should get your affairs in order. And I wish you the best. And walks out of the room, and you're thunderstruck because you've just been giving notice that this is coming to a conclusion. So then and there, they do the life review. I always say this. I said, look, somebody said when we die and we go to the other side and we do our life review, we'll laugh at this. And I said, why wait? Shouldn't we be doing maybe we should be doing our life review right now. Because I don't want to get on the other side and have the angels with their arms folded staring at me going, now let me get this straight. You waited till you got here to do this life review? Why do you think we sent you there?
Yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda, and here we are now. Oh, that is fantastic. That is... Wow. I just had 10 seconds of genius. Just for a moment. It was a fleeting
Because you remember it, right?
Yeah,
remember.
It drove by.
There's a remembering part. You go, yeah, okay, I remember now for a second. I'm supposed to be here for a while, and then I'm going to go back, If you know you're going back to what you originally came from, and you really knew that well, you're going to have a lot of comfort while you're living here. Whereas people who think, I don't know what's on the other side, and maybe there's nothing, and then there's always some stupid family neighbor or something that says, look, you take your last breath, and you die, and that's all there is, and there's nothing more. It's ended. And you take on that belief system, and it's wrecking your life. You're thinking, I can't be, Take heart. The best news is right here on your show tonight. Take heart. I've been there already. The best is yet to come. When you pass from this earth, for many people, it will be so fantastic. Your mind doesn't have room for that. It is exciting. It is so answering and so soothing and comforting and relieving. Oh my God, it's like relieving this nervous web around your field that you had while you're here because you didn't trust anybody. Right. And it drops away and you go, whoa, so this is how I'm supposed to feel. And look who's here. It's really great. And for others, it may be quite different, quite different.
I have to shout out a quick instruction into the other studio here. You may come and get it now. I don't have time to run a text. Anyway, that was just, that's our communication system. And I think I run, and I say this all the time, Robert, but we all have baggage. But I try not to have huge Samsonite pieces of luggage hanging off of me. I try to run clean. I don't run negative. I don't have time for it, and it slows me down. Negativity slows me down, and I see people around me, and certainly on the fringe, on the edges of my life that run with negativity. Not only towards me, but towards other people, and I just don't get it. And I try to advise people, you know what, get rid of it. I don't have time for it. If you think I recognize it, I don't. I close my eyes to the negativity. What's the advice that you can give to people to get rid of that baggage? Because all it does is slow you down. Negativity slows you down. You don't have, I can look at you and see that you don't have that negativity. How do you get rid of it?
Well, first you should come over to the house and spend a weekend before you say that I don't have any. You might find by Sunday afternoon going, oh boy, he's got a lot of stuff he's working through, doesn't he? But to answer your question, yeah, it's a great question. In behavioral science, and I'll tell you what, there was a lecture I just went to by an Indian guy just this last Sunday here in town and everything. Lovely guy. He teaches Ayurveda. And then he was reminding us of something that I like to remind the audience of, because I'm a very personal growth guy, right? I do have that sort of intergalactic personal growth, motivational kind of shtick about, or not shtick, but, directive. It's a directive. It's the way I operate or whatever. Anyway, and this is what it is. Watch the looping. In our mind, in our conscious, in the ego, we'll have something that is of a traumatic nature that happened when we were young. And I think if you're listening, you know what I'm talking about out there. Everybody's saying, well, I have this, and this is what my father did to me, and this is what the burden I carry and everything. But watch that Your freedom is found in releasing and not letting the loop in your head revisit the traumatic story and make that your story and keep working through it. Your freedom, and this is not new information, you know, we all heard this before, but it's just sort of watching that looping of revisiting the continuous thing that happened 30 years ago or 10 years ago or even a week ago. Some things, you know, just stick with us, and we're missing our life. I always say, don't miss your life. Don't get so caught up in something that you have no control in that's affecting the moment. Try to find that moment of a little bit of joy and just do it a moment at a time. You try to stay in this moment. Don't go backwards and go back into the dungeon, and don't go forward and worry about, you know, that the plane might crash or something that you have no control over could happen or the wedding won't go right. Don't do that. Try to stay right in the moment and just say, you know, and just breathe in maybe 2 or 3 times slowly and say, I'm here now and I'm okay. It's constant reassurance, you know. There's a lot of people live with a lot of trauma. Trust me, my audience comes to me and they're filled with such traumatic events and hurt that I can only just, my heart just goes so out to them, you know.
Robert Perala. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I am your humble host, Jimmy Church. Robert is with us for the duration on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Stay right there, Robert. 2 minutes. We'll be right back.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
Hey everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Go Beckley Tepe.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, everybody, everybody. Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. I told you this is going to be one of those nights. This is late night talk radio at its finest. Robert Perala is with us. Hey, Robert, what do you think of that guitar player right there? Pretty good, huh?
Please don't tell me that's Jeff Beck.
No, that's me. Nah, that's Doug Aldrich. Anyway.
That Doug, yeah, Doug.
Yeah, Doug can spank the plank. No
he
doubt.
He can.
What would happen? Funny. What would happen, Robert, if we abducted a Palladian? Would there be repercussions?
I think we would be in the presence of something we really wouldn't understand. It would be if you met one, in person. I feel like you would be meeting somebody from the future that you would feel was very, very curious about you and advanced about you. It might look at you and not say anything out loud, and you would hear it in your head without its lips moving. In some cases, it has lived long enough and understands spiritual principle long enough that in some cases you may see it, just be there 1 minute and dissolve in the next. There are levels of humankind that go from the dense where we are now, very primitive, on the way up to intelligent, on the way on up to genius, like some of the ones we have on the planet now, all the way on up to the evolutionary scale where people are moving through the stars with machinery, all the way up to some that have mastered and now have the ability to go between physical dimensions because they've simply lived long enough and they understand the principles and they've earned that. We're in a long line.
What about time travel? Are they able to go back on planet Earth to previous history and do they know our future? Have they visited that? And I understand being so far advanced. When you look at time travel today here on Earth, we understand it. We just can't get to it yet. There are forms of time travel here now that have been proven in very simplistic forms, but the Palladians or any other ET race out there would be a lot more advanced than us. They're certainly traveling here. Have they mastered time travel, and do they mess with that on planet Earth?
Well, both of the above I think are probably true. They've mastered time travel. They've mastered the time-space continuum to even master the incredible distance it would even take to get to Earth. Because in the cosmos, we're almost like an outpost compared to this cluster of systems, the Milky Way, other things. Earth is way out on what would be considered an outpost. It's almost like we're not in the middle of the scene here, so to speak. But whoever these beings are, they have the ability to get here. And I do believe that they can see the future, but perhaps from a much different perspective than what we think, because there's the free will zone of what's going on here. So I think some of these psychics seem to tap into these entities on the other side and then say they see a future event and the entity tells them telepathically or some psychic reading, and then the happening happens. And you wonder, how can that be? So they're seeing it from a different perspective. I think that they're not really. There must be a big law here that says they cannot interfere. This is why we haven't seen disclosure. This is why we don't see open contact. Whatever's coming here is very intelligent. There's two things going on. One, they can see where we're at on the scale of consciousness, and they know that an attempted landing, such as in a physical place like in front of the Eiffel Tower or the White House lawn or the Yankee Stadium or the London Buckingham Palace or whatever you have, would shatter the fabric of this reality. It would be an interruption so big that systems would collapse, because when people are confronted with the unknown and fear, they do. What do? They pull out their medium of exchange. I hate to say this, but it does go back to money. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but Jimmy, that's our medium of exchange. We know this, and when people are confronted with something they don't understand of a fantastic magnitude, they start pulling out their market, gold out of the market. They go to gold, or they start taking their money out of stocks, and the systems and ownership and exchange collapses. So probably Richard Dolan said it quite well. I think I spent a lot of time with him in Contact in the Desert. I got to give him a lot of credit for this one. He said I think somebody asked him, how do you see disclosure happening? And I saw it very much like him. He says, first will be an announcement that they've discovered life, and there's life on another planet. Well, it's not so threatening, pretty far away, seems unassuming. Then it'll take a while to get used to that. Then the people will get the idea that these sightings are probably starting to be real, and that's okay. They get used to the idea because it doesn't seem so evasive, and there's been no attack or really imminent threat of any kind, except for in the movies, which is very destructive to some degree. And then there'll be a series of other things that will happen that will lead people to just get used to the idea. And then eventually there will be a disclosure, but it'll be non-threatening, and it'll almost be like a myth, as if there's been a meeting and no one really knows if it really has happened, but everybody sort of gets used to the idea. You have to really massage 6 billion people and break this news gently. By God, you're on Jimmy Church Radio here, and you're breaking some of this news, and it's programs like you that sort of night by night get people used to the idea. So, we're well down the road on this thing, while the other unsuspecting public is like, what?
Yeah, that's where Richard and I kind of part ways. And I've discussed this with him too. But I come from the opposite mindset, Robert, and it's this.
Good.
Our hope, our very hope, is that we are not alone. That's what drives us to have harmony here and hope that we don't want to be alone. And we need to hear that we are not alone so we can move forward as a human species and mature and develop. You want to know what would crush this earth and crush hope and crush everything? Is if we found out that we were all there is. Then there's no reason to live. There's no reason to mature. There's no reason to go forward. If we are all alone, our emotions and our consciousness would be crushed like a bug. And there is no reason. Then anarchy, well, screw it. If we're alone, then let's burn this place down. There's nothing to live for. And that's where Richard and I kind of part ways. We need to find out that we are not alone, and that there is a reason, and there's a reason to move forward, and there's a reason to make contact, and there's a reason to grow and to evolve and have harmony and peace. And that's where we have acceptance come in. Acceptance has to come in at that point, so disclosure can and a safe merging can take place. What you said there is absolutely true, and I think what Richard is saying is also true. I think both sides are very accurate. It's a very complex subject, the actual meeting of the terrestrials and the extraterrestrials. Exactly what you're saying there. Well, and I think, and I said this to Richard this past week, and I don't want to sound like I'm name dropping, but we did have that conversation, and I just think that we need to move forward with the mindset that, you know what, they're already here. That's it. Now let's move forward in a scientific and a conscious way, and let's work on that. But that's it. There isn't, have they been here? Are they there? No, they are here, and we have met. They've been here many times. That's it. Let's accept that and move forward. Waiting around for disclosure is in my opinion, just, I would like to see it, but waiting around for it is just not the way to go. We just need to accept the fact that they are here. They've been here. They're going to be here tomorrow. They've been here in the past. That's it. Let's just move forward with a different mindset.
And
you're ready for that.
Yeah. Well,
but the guy down the street might not be.
With my children and the generation or two that are up and coming, that are below us, so to speak, they don't care. They accept it. They know that we're not alone. They've been bombarded with Hollywood and cartoons and gaming systems and comic books their entire lives. They don't question the fact that, are we alone? Our generation, mine and yours, that are around us right now, okay, it may be fitty, so to speak, but I think that the younger generation, there's no question in their minds. None whatsoever. I think we're ahead for astonishing changes in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just imagine, I used to say this, Robert, when you and I were kids, we're about the same age. When you and I were kids in the 70s, I used to say, just imagine when our generation is in control of Congress, pot's going to be legal, man. When we get there, it's going to be different. Black Sabbath and Deep Purple, man. We're going to rule this planet. And here we are today. We're almost there, if you know what I mean. But just imagine the generation now, the 4 or 5-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, the 18-year-olds that are out there now, what Congress is going to be like, and governments around the world, what they're going to be like. That gaming generation that is out there now. Well, you know what? They're going to run Buckingham Palace. They're going to be running parliaments and governments around the world, and it's going to be a different place, man. And I see harmony. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I really do, and I do. I'll walk around with flowers hanging out of my pockets, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. I think that we are
beautiful.
We're that there's glory ahead of us, and I just don't have time for negativity, man. That's me. But damn it, I'm sticking to my guns.
I agree that the world will be different. The old is falling away and the new is emerging. The new does not like what it's seen. It doesn't like the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. It doesn't like this human rights issue so limited. There's everybody with a cell phone on every corner taking pictures of the cops, whacking some guy.
Right.
There's the debt, the unnecessary war in Iraq, the situation with the climate change. There's the complete loss of respect for the government in our time. By a lot of people, even the most conservative, who used to say, yeah, they're really behind us, realizing, they've gotten us in so deep. I think that's why they want to watch everything in real time. It's kind of what the smart technology around our globe is all about. But I'm hopeful. These guys are going to wake up and say, look, you see things like McDonald's lost $400 million in this last year because people waking up saying, you know what, we need better food. We need non-GMO. We need to be awake to what's happening here.
Sure.
We need to run some of these guys that are in office and, set it up to let people know they're obsolete.
But isn't some of that our own doing in that we've had climate issues? Look back at the Industrial Revolution and the pollution that was emitted, into the skies, 24 hours a day. But you can back up and look at any government and look at the complications with that. You can go to Rome, you can go to Egypt for that. You can go look at our own revolution that we had here in the United States 225 years ago, 250 years ago. And the reasons why we left Great Britain, and look at France, and they've had multiple revolutions there, but it's France. What do you expect? But it's a constant cyclical thing where we're always fighting the government and the meek shall inherit the earth kind of thing, and it has been a cyclical thing. I think today is something that we have created once again amongst ourselves because we haven't learned how to avoid it.
Yeah, we do make the same mistakes, don't we? It's constant, but we are breaking that mold. I met these two girls that were at Contacting the Desert, and they were very young, mid-20s, and they just seemed to be coming from such a different mindset that I was really feeling the generation gap and almost laughing because were so tuned in, as if they were not really removed from this extraterrestrial story. They seemed almost galactic, like galactic kids of some kind. Like, you really feel the difference in the generation gap when I was speaking with them, and they were talking about what was really important here, and it was to bring enlightenment to the world, which is not the newest. We had that in '67. We all know the hippie thing. So, but there was kind of galactic feel about it, and their interest was very different from mine and yours. In other words, only pure rarefied food. You must meditate every day, and then you listen to celestial music and not have a lot of contact with the social media aspect and television and things that can get in your way. You're to tune in. It's right there. You just not to have too many interruptions. And as one girl had a sort of diamond-shaped face and very thin, and fairly large eyes, I said, you know what? That's an ET of some kind having a human experience. She's just on another level. This is this next group of people that are coming in. Because, I mean, try to explain what we're talking about right now so naturally, so easy. And let's take us back to the 1930s. And let's try to have the conversation in front of people in the 30s like this. They would look at us like, where are you from? What is this world you're talking about? What is this thing you're talking about a grid, invisible lines connecting people, and
right.
And you're watching each other? What kind of world is that? And they destroyed the food, but why would they want to do that? And everything, you know. And then so we're having a different. So same for these kids. They were advanced, looking at us sort of like, wow, well, you know, they're in the year 2015. They're coming along. I look primitive to these two kids.
Totally, too. Yeah. Well, and also, I don't think the world had an issue in 1890 with Martians. You know, I don't think they did. I think that everybody accepted the fact that Mars was populated. That they would look at Mars every single day, and they accepted the fact that on that red planet there were canals, civilizations, cities, Martians, and I don't think that they had issue with that. I really don't.
There's always that community. There's always that community in every generation. I mean, you go back 250 years and more, you know, and you see people that were really hooked up. So there's always been a community of very enlightened beings that know this and have sort of understand the principles of how things are coming and going between the planet. But there's a vast majority that still is living in survival and living in a socio-conditioning, which is perhaps a one avenue of thought. And there's no, you know, I'm not judging it, you know. I'm just saying that we know religions have certain schools of thought, and the what happened at creation and what happened, you know, how we got started here and what this is all about and what they're going to see when they pass from the earth. Every religion has their own sort of storytelling version of that. And I think all of them have the essences of the truth, and all of them have followed along and are still in the growth pattern of discovery. So everything you're saying is absolutely true. You have kind of two things happening at the same time, don't you?
Well, and how do we connect with it? You know, we know it's there, and are the Palladians, or ET in general, is that the divine intelligence? Is it one and the same? And how do we communicate with the Palladians or the divine intelligence? How do we make that connection?
Well, the divine intelligence is around you, it's within you, and it combines all things together. There's really no place of the divine intelligence it isn't. This is my personal belief, and just over a long period of studying the esoteric. In the intelligence itself, it's cause and effect. It's causing the grass blades to grow on your lawn. It's causing the tree to grow. It's causing the cat to grow. It's causing you to grow and expand and also even deteriorate. So it's sort of a controlling factor. And in this intelligence, there is an understanding of avenues that people or conscious beings can take. So the advanced ones travel on these timelines. So the Pleiadians say that you are really on certain timelines, and so therefore they come from your future. And so we have the timelines of of expiration. People who live here, finish their body, and they expire, and they move to the other side. The time has shifted now, and the awareness has shifted, and they wake up into where they'll continue the journey, even though it seems very deceiving, doesn't it? Because we kind of grew up as a little baby, and then a young person, and then an old person, and then we die. You think, well, how does that all fit into this continuum? And it actually does. The intelligence is still surrounding you. There's no place that it's not. There's just people that can access that intelligence in a greater manner, and they understand the principles. And once they understand the principles, they can travel great distances. They can do amazing things. They can shape civilizations. We're like a game board for them. They're coming here and massaging this reality. They influence our thoughts, etc. One of the great people that you ought to have on your show, I'll tell you, is she's really got a good handle on this, I think. There's a woman out there, a beautiful lady named Barbara Marciniak, and she wrote 4 books, I think, and I think the last book for me is the most interesting. It's called Path of Empowerment, and it was a treatise on how the Pleiadians, if that's what you want to call them, see the Earth conditioning and see the progress of humanity. And largely, it's a treatise on our belief systems, how we believe, how we perceive, how we choose, how we have emotional bodies that are governing a lot of our decisions and choices here, that we are a curious species, and that many are coming here in observance of Earth, because it is just now really starting to be really birthed into a larger expression. In other words, they go from civilization and universe to universe, these various entities, and then when there's time comes to harvest a certain planet, like a farmer would harvest in his field when it's ripe, then there's an intervention, and the farmer shows up. Well, this is a very similar thing to the peas showing up. We call them the peas, right? The Pleiadians, they're coming here now, and they're aware that we're aware that they're there. Now there's a new group of people that are aware. Okay, we wake up in the morning. Okay, we know you're there. Okay, and then the neighbor next door has no idea what you're talking about, but some of us know, and we're a little farther down the line. We're willing to negotiate or be open to the possibility of meeting and intervention in some way. So we're a little farther down the line, but a lot of the community in the Earth, the rest of them go, please, Jimmy, like my sister, she would look at you and me and go, Jimmy, Robert, come on, I'm begging you. We're going to go over and see these people, but I don't want you to talk about that UFO stuff, because you see, that freaks people out, and you don't want to do that.
Oh, man. Yeah, words of wisdom.
That's the way it is.
Yes. Words of wisdom. Let's do that. Do you want to take a couple of phone calls?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's jump in. This will be our last break. Let's do this. I'm going to do this a little early. And then when we come back, I'm going to have Robert tell us about the strange case of Mr. D. We'll do that after the break, and we'll take a couple of phone calls, and we'll roll this thing out of here. I'm having so much fun. I forgot to open up the phone lines in the last 2 breaks. But we'll get a couple of quick calls in. 323-825-5045, 323-825-5045. We'll take our last break. We are with Robert Perala tonight, and when we come back, the strange case of Mr. D. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us, Robert. 2 minutes.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Attention, all Fade or Not. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com.
Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy, Gobekli Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
Hey everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Gobekli Tepe.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Phone lines are open, 323-825-5045. I want to chat with Robert Perala. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. What a great show tonight. Hey, Robert, what'd you think of that guitar player? Pretty good, huh?
You know, Doug just gets better.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
You know,
is that the same riff?
No, he needs to practice some more. I think that's his problem. He needs to practice. You know, I'll tell you something funny. You and I, we're guitar players. Spend a lot of time in the studio. We write. We do all this stuff. And I'd be engineering and producing with Doug and recording all night long. We did it for what seemed like years, probably 3, 4, 5 years, where we were in the studio constantly. And that dude would lay down these licks, and it would throw me off, Mike, because I'm watching him play right in front of me. And he would end. He'd go, "Hey man, was that okay?" And I'm in the zone. I'm like, "What'd you say? What?" You know. and he was like that. You know, let me do another one. No, dude. No. That was just fine. Are you sure, man? Was that cool, dude? Oh man, it was so trippy to watch a guy like that throw down all the time. And you being a player, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, wow. I never talk about Doug, and it's weird. I just know that you're a player, and I know you're listening, and I know you get it. So enough of that. Who was the strange case of Mr. D? What? Tell us about that. Okay.
This guy walks into my workshop. I was very new at speaking. It was 1993. It was the summer. Honest to gosh, I think this must have been lecture number 4 or 5, and now couldn't even count, at this point, because we're in the year 2015. But in 1993, I was a neophyte in this, and this guy walks. I attempted an all-day workshop in Aptos, which is on the beach right here near Santa Cruz, California. And this guy, tall, emaciated, walks into my lecture, and I thought, an unusual guy, hadn't he? And this old man that used to bring him along because he loved this UFO stuff. He got very nervous and took a step back, and he just sort of whispered to me, he says, "I don't like this guy. I don't know what that is." He looked very emaciated, long fingers, long, lengthy arms, and everything. And he greeted me, and I said, "Hello, thanks for coming today, And he opened up his hand, and there was a red stone, and the stone, just on its own, seemed to just illumine. It was just turned bright, brilliant red, like it just lit up on its own. We were really taken back by that. I said, "I've never seen anything like that before. I thought, was this some kind of trick? How did you do that?" and everything. And then he showed me some drawings and things like that. Well, long story short, I sort of met up with him later, and I said, somehow we got together at his house weeks later, And he was staying with a woman, and I walked in the house, and this whole house is just filled with all these drawings and hieroglyphics. I've never seen anything like that before. There's a lot of different languages. And the little girl even was like that, too. She was just like, wow, you know, she's touched by this guy or something, because she's got this gift also. She's writing in these hieroglyphics, and why would a little girl like her age draw people that are wearing these, you know, that look like space people? You know, space people and human. Why would that be even important to a little girl like that? I mean, so shouldn't you be playing with dolls or something, you know? Anyway, so eventually, you know, her and her mom left, and I said, listen, my dad's dying, and, you know, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. Do you do readings? And he said, yeah, I do readings. And I said, okay. Well, can we do one? And he said, yeah, we can do one if that's, you know, if that pleases you. Because I couldn't think of why I was even really there other than to learn more about him. And then I didn't really know when I was there what to do, really. It was all just so odd and strange. And I thought, I think this guy's maybe an ET or something in a human body. Or I couldn't think. I remember the stone glowing. I remember the drawings I have in my possession. I thought, so I'm learning about this guy. He says he can do a reading. We sit down, and he goes quiet, and I go quiet. But 25 minutes go by and nothing has happened. I mean, literally, I'm waiting. Are you going to say anything? You know? And all of a sudden his hand there was a pen and a piece of paper lying there next to his right hand. And suddenly his hand just went into it like a spasm. It grabbed the pen and it started writing across this piece of paper. And he's not saying a word. And his hand's convulsing and everything. And then his hand stops and the pen drops out. And then after a minute, he opens his eyes and he goes, okay, there's the reading. I go, that's it? He goes, that's it. I go, that's it? He goes, that's it. And I looked down at the piece of paper. I said, you're not going to say anything? He said, you asked me to do a reading on your father. You said he was dying. I said, okay. I thought you were going to say something, though. Like, you know, like foretell me, you know, like, you know, how bad is it and if he might go. Or he goes, well, I can't tell you that. But take this to a nurse. He said, you asked me to do a reading. So I took it to him. I looked down and it was like an Etch-a-Sketch. It was like up and down lines going across vertically, then a second row, same thing, up and down lines vertically, and then a third row down below. And he says, so this is the reading. So he says, this top one is his heart. The middle one is his kidneys, and the bottom one is his lungs. And you know, if you want to know how he's doing, you asked me to do a reading on how he's doing. He says that you take that to someone who can read that. He says, I'm not qualified to tell you really anymore. All right, wrap it up. Go. Met up with a woman. It was a very, very high-level nurse at El Camino Hospital in Mountain View, California. It's right there here, you know, 40 miles south of San Francisco is what we're talking about on the peninsula. Very prominent hospital. Showed it to the nurse, and she studied it for a second, and she looked up at me and she says, I don't get this. She says, it's a perfect electrocardiogram. And she says in fact, it's very detailed. It shows the systolic, the diastolic. Obviously, this patient, whoever he is having troubles. He has heart palpitations, and these are very pronounced here. The kidneys are obviously very toxic. This is toxicity. This is I would consider this, you know, a serious matter. And the lungs show palpitations in it. And she said, where did you get this? And I kind of told her, because I knew she could take it, you know, because she knew a little bit about ET stuff. She says, are you trying to tell me that this guy did this by hand? And I said, he did it with his eyes closed.
What?
She said, are you kidding me?
Right.
She says, a perfect electrocardiogram like this is not done on a machine? I said, no, it was a man who did it. He read my dad. She goes, I've never seen this before. Ever. So, anyway, she says, I think your father, you know, probably doesn't have a long lifespan. And I said, well, they've just discovered at the Mayo Clinic a very unusual virus they've rarely ever seen. They found out he had pulmonary veno-occlusive, which is a rare lung disease. And he said there was only 27 or 24 known cases in the world since about 1930. And the doctor said, can we have a piece of his lungs? He says, we never thought we'd ever see this again. It's a 1 in a million shot. But the nature of his lungs are in a way that we need. Your father, he says, is not going to live long. It's just people don't live with this. But there's good news in this. If we take a biopsy of his lungs, it's going to do an awful lot for our research and everything. Now, there's one last thing, be public with it. The guy tells me, this ET fellow, Mr. D, as I call him, I'm leaving him anonymous, tells me that at some point my dad drank milk. And I said, yeah, that's right. My dad was kind of like one of these guys who used to drink milk even right into his 60s. He was still drinking. He liked milk, he drank milk. He was a milk drinker. And he said at some point a bug came into this milk and this got into his system.
What?
And it will take him out of the system and everything, and it's rare. He says, your dad's had a contact with an extraterrestrial or something. I said, my father, wait a minute. Okay, years before, in the 70s, I had this experience. Now you're telling me my dad, in 1993, he must have gotten it. He's telling me that he's got this thing, in his lungs, and that it's coming from this milk, and that he's had a contact with ET. He said, yeah, exactly. And he will go, and they'll find some interesting things about this. And so that's a very strange case. I gotta say, Jimmy, I never heard of it myself. That's the story. That is the story. I can only tell you the truth of what happened way back then. He was a remarkable guy. I never saw him really again. He seemed to be. There was later somebody that did a look at him, a reading on him, and knew a little bit about him, and said that what I was seeing there was the body that was being used somehow by another entity, and using the body as a host. That the body had died, and that they had revived this body, and that there were entities using it from time to time, like a vehicle. And he eventually faded away. I never saw him again.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Did you ever make contact with your dad after he passed away?
Yeah, actually, I have. In a few, my dad, I believe, has visited me since he's been gone. I've lucid dreamed, and I've been hugged by him. I have had people do readings who have spoken to him. Largely when we do a reading with someone who's passed on, it's usually very advised if you're going to tap into the divine and you're going to try and make contact, it's best to do it as soon as possible. That for some reason our souls fade from here eventually and go into other assignments, but largely when we die, we have unfinished business. We still come back and visit it. And there were readings on him that described some business conditions that I inherited after his death that were remarkable. I thought, maybe it is him, maybe it's not, but I know that the reading was accurate because I knew the circumstances. So I can't say it was necessarily him, but our parents do visit us. We're not done. They for everyone that's ever lost a parent or a child, unfortunately, you will see them again.
Well,
you will see them again.
My mom passed away last month, the day after Mother's Day. And I spoke to her. She was in Florida. I was here in California. And I had spoken to her a couple of times, maybe 3 times on Mother's Day. And, checking in on her. She was in the hospital. And obviously it wasn't a good situation. And we knew that. And I had flown out. She passed away on Monday. During this broadcast, and then I flew out immediately on Tuesday morning. The flight was planned on Tuesday morning because she was still alive when we made, the plans to fly out. Well, anyway, I spoke to her. This was just last month, and I spoke to her on that Sunday. She passed away on Monday. And what I have been waiting for is what every child, experiences. I'm assuming everybody has. We've all heard it. is for her to come back and visit me. She hasn't done it yet, and I promise the audience, when it happens, I will share it with you. I want to share it with the world. I want to have that experience, and I haven't had it yet. I look forward to it. She was a wonderful. She was crazy. She was out of her mind. She was so cool, and she was very much into. She made me, of course, who I am today. But Robert, she had shelves of Edgar Cayce books. And she used to do the memory ghostwriting stuff that you were just talking about Mr. D. And she used to write, and she was into the Ouija boards and just tarot cards. And she was just a really, really, really cool mom to have. And so I know if the ability is there to come back and hang out, well, she'll do it. Trust me. My mom was all that in a bag of chips. And she just passed away this last month, and I haven't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's.
Oh,
all
I
good.
think I did hear that. Yes.
Yes, and I haven't had the visit yet. Damn it, Mom! If you're listening, I'm waiting. let's do this, man. Let's get through this. But I really look forward to it. After your father passed away, how long after he passed were you able to communicate with him for the first time?
Well, it came pretty quickly because it wasn't an easy situation that he left, and there was business to be done. And I was with a woman that was at the time that was quite clairvoyant, and she described conditions that were on a business level inside an apartment complex that he had been in a partnership with. And it was so remarkable, I don't tell this woman anything about the conditions and everything. She's describing conditions that only I would recognize or understand. And then, she said, your father loves you very, very, very much. And this, he just wants to let you know and that he's really, really here. This isn't just something that, And I just broke down and cried. I could really sort of feel that. And we have loved ones that visit us in the early portions of their departure. And it's as though they've woken from a dream and they don't suffer any longer. If you had a disfiguration of some kind, or a disease or all the decay of a portion of your physical form, that just falls away. And we all get released from that. The people bound in a wheelchair will stand up and walk away. The others that have had some burns or terrible things that have happened to them will find themselves living in with an idyllic state. It was as though you woke up from a dream and you're in sort of an idyllic state. Where you're sort of ageless. You don't have the age and decay. That's all in the material plane. You might very likely return actually, and you will look like yourself, believe it or not, but you may look like you're in your prime without the decay first. You may look at you when you were at the peak of your development, from a teenager into young man or young womanhood or whatever, and you're limitless. It's quite remarkable. You're quite limitless.
Do you care about your number, your age, or do you just live? Are you concerned about birthdays? Are you counting the time, or is it just all is your age in your mind?
Well, I'm going to be 60 in August. I'll tell you that it was really, really, really on my mind. And then there's other times when it's sort of like very comforting, and I'm very grateful that I was born in the year 1955. I'm grateful for all the things that I have. I remember, like you and I, we saw the last rites of freedom, before all this new world we're living in and the surveillance state and all that. I mean, I remember when the phone rang, and if you weren't home, you just missed the call. That was just the way it went. And we were so free and carefree. In the 60s, when I was very young, I was only, I think at the end of the 60s, I think I was 13. So I did make it, 13 and 14, I did make it into 1969, and I was old enough to sort of know better, but then not too young. And it was a fantastic time in life in the early 70s. I try to impart that to the young people today, and they go, I feel that. I read about it, and they seem so removed from it because they're on their device and hooked to their belt, and they've got a laptop in their other hand, and they grow up in a different world, So I'm all right. I'm not fearing death at all. I feel concerned about the way I go. Like, I don't want to be in a bed for 6 years before I go. I'd take my chances with the plane crash because it's sort of thrilling, it's scary, it might be exciting, and then it's over, and then, there's no pain or anything, and it's quick. It's really this side, the decay of the body, that I fear a lot more than death. Death is fine because death is life. It's the other way around. You're going to wake up and you're going to be fine. There's such good news. There's such good news waiting for us. Oh, my God. You're karmically bound and you're stuck here, folks. Sorry, but that's the way it goes. Don't take your own life because it's out of the contract. You can't enter into another timeline and then the physical form. You bounce into the wrong timeline, and you might get ushered off into a different experience. They want to see you come over when you're ready to come over. And can you come over in the most bizarre circumstances? All this looks so strange. How could that guy with that car, if he wasn't drunk, it wouldn't have happened? There's always these stories, but actually, things are pretty well on schedule.
I wanted to, I knew we'd run out of time tonight, and thank you for hanging on this late. I knew it would go like this. It is. That's fine. Let's just deal with it. There's one thing I wanted to ask you about, and it's one of my favorite subjects, and I just can't get my mind around it. But it's a simple one. It's called deja vu. What the heck is going on? Deja vu is the one thing when we talk about the paranormal, or we talk about ET, or we talk about dimensions, or whatever the possibilities that are out there. When we look at deja vu and we know what happens to us, and it's a fact of life, then if deja vu is real, then isn't everything else? You know what I mean? If that is indeed happening to us, I'm sure it happens to everybody. Well, then isn't everything else real in the paranormal? And what is deja vu? I want your opinion.
Well, like I say, the consciousness and the existence stretches backwards and forwards. It stretches in ways we couldn't dream possible. When someone feels like they haven't, or they say, wait a minute, I've done this before. I've already done this. And you're having this deja vu and everything. You are, a couple of things that might be happening is that you remember this from already doing this in another realm. You might say not all of you is even here. Actually, you're sort of simultaneously, and it's very hard for people to get their mind around this, but just entertain the thought that you're simultaneously actually living in other existences, coexisting at the same time that you're living in this rooted one right here. So you may have already have done that before. You're doing it, in another place, and then it shows up here in the material plane, and you go, "Wow, I already know this person, or I've already done this and everything." You actually have. It's very hard for the mind to get around how it's not linear and that it's multi-layered and everything. But we're sort of stuck here in this experience for now, with what we have, and we can make the best of it. But you're not, when somebody says, I'm not all here today, take them seriously. They mean it. We're not all here.
Oh man, thank you for that. And I want to leave. I want to leave with this. Contact in the Desert is one of the most wonderful experiences that anybody could do all year long, and I so look forward to it. And this year was certainly no exception. It was just absolutely incredible. What did you come away with from this year's event?
Oh, wow. It was so lovely to see people searching like that and all gathering. There's a camaraderie that it's like you've gone to a pilgrimage and you go, wow, I'm so happy to meet you because you feel like I do and you think like I do, or we wouldn't be out here together. Right. There's a community that's developing that says, you know what? It felt to me magical because it felt kind of like, well, we're not the first, but it had that feeling of, we're the advanced team. We're the first. We've figured this out. We all came out here. We don't think, not many people out there were deliberating whether ETs are real. No, we're past that. There was a real feeling of, all right, we know they're here. Now we're meeting. What are we going to do about this? And everybody was sort of discussing how is this all playing out? How is everybody playing their part, sending out the emails and having the radio shows, and who did you reach out to? We've got to tell people, extraterrestrials are here, get used to it, it's okay. And that's why we came here tonight. It's a great place to wrap up, that it's a wonderful, abundant universe. I always say, your spirits shine bright and light the way for many. Believe in yourself and get on with it, like you say, Jimmy. Get on with it. Get used to the idea. Tell a friend.
Thank you so much. And everything is at robertperala.com, right? robertperala.com.
Yep.
Books.
Yep. The Perala Report. All of it's right there. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I always say, Jimmy, let's put our capes back on. We've got a world to save.
Thank you so much, Robert. Hey, really quick, I'm going to let you go. I do have to wrap. When are you coming back down to Los Angeles? I know we have the next what's the Life After Death?
Yeah, it's called Heaven Can Wait.
Oh, Heaven Can Wait. I'm sorry.
And they're booking now the various different speakers. I know they've asked me to be a part of this. It hasn't all been put together. It probably will be in the next couple of days. Heaven Can Wait, November 20th, I believe it is, that weekend of the 20th, November 20th. It's 3 days down there at the Los Angeles Westin Hotel. And it's going to be people who have talked to the dead. Raymond Moody, many others are coming out there. Victoria Jennings and Paul Andrews are producing it. Looks like a great event. We got to go.
And are you speaking out anytime soon before Heaven Can Wait?
Yeah, there's a UFO Con that's coming up in Sacramento, and that's in October, around the 23rd, I think it is. I'm always at the Perala Report online on YouTube. You can look at the Perala Report. There's a video that we just released called Taking Aboard a Spacecraft. It's right there at robertperala.com, so the person can have the experience tonight, tomorrow if they want. And there's more being booked, but I'm actually producing an album, and I'm busy with business and everything. So, and the new book is coming out. The Divine Architect, The Art of Living and Beyond is coming out as an ebook and revised edition for the fall. So there they can find more.
And there you go, robertperala.com. That's Robert Perala, everybody. Thank you so much, Robert. I had the bestest of best times tonight. Thank you so much.
Me too, Jimmy. Thanks so much.
All the best.
You bet. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Robert Perala. That is what, and I'm serious, that right there, and I say it every night, but that right there is why I do Fade to Black. Right there, the last 3 hours. Absolutely an incredible time. He's a great mind. robertperala.com. That's where you want to go. There's interviews there. He's got links there. He's got a bunch of ET stuff that is great reading. He's got a video gallery. Of course, his books are there. His schedule and lectures and events and everything that he's got going on. If you are going to be in the LA area, November 20th, that is one convention that you're not going to want to miss, and that is at the LAX Westin at LAX Airport, and that is just going to be extraordinary. Again, thank you, Robert. I'm beside myself. You thought last night I was happy. I'm just as happy tonight. How could? What did Steve say? You got to swing for the fences. Well, I think I did just that tonight. I am just so happy with that conversation, and I want to leave you with this. We're out of time. But this is something that shocked me to my very bones when I read it. Well, I actually have two stories. Let me see if I can get these in. College has gotten 12 times more expensive in one generation. In the 2012-2013 school year, first year on-campus tuition averaged $43,000 at a 4-year private school and $21,700 at in-state public schools. It wasn't always like this, and we know that. The cost of undergraduate education is 12 times higher than it was 35 years ago, far outpacing inflation. While the index price of college tuition and fees skyrocketed by more than 1,122% since 1978. The cost of medical care rose less than 600%, and the cost of housing and food went up less than 300%. Listen to this. Back in 1993, 47% of college students graduated with debt, owing an average of $9,000 per grad. As tuition rates have risen and shot up, so has student debt. It's gone up 71% of the class of 2012. They graduated with outstanding loans averaging $29,400. That's up 65% of the entire first-year salary of any average recent grad. And that we have to fix. It's shocking to me. Shocking. Tomorrow night will be the Hangar One special right here. Yeah, cast and crew all night long. Can't wait for tomorrow night. And again, very special thanks to Robert Perala. He lit it up tonight. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton, J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Bateau, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Music is Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night is the Hangar One special. I'm your humble host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Until tomorrow night, I want everybody to be safe. See ya.